Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brendan Kane, and I do appreciate you for tuning on in here on a wonderful Wednesday afternoon, hump day, just getting through the week. And hopefully your week is going mightily fast at that. We are almost there. We have almost reached the finish line of the beginning, which is the start of training camp, where your Seahawks hopefully will begin a magical run that sees this team surprise everyone across the nation, far exceeding the expectations of first-year, youngest head coach in the entire NFL, Mike McDonald. But we're going to be still talking about some elements of this team today, some items that are just kind of on the peripheral a little bit here, as we've been kind of diving into depth, looking at scheme, kind of looking into some of these individual players that haven't maybe been spoken about as much this offseason, lost in the shuffle, if you will. And today we're going to look at undrafted rookie free agents. This is not always going to be the type of topic or show that's going to get all Hawk fans up in arms going, oh yeah, tell us about all of those guys. Because after all, the guy's undrafted. There's a reason he's undrafted. Undrafted guys don't have a tendency to make the roster. They are looked at as at times camp fodder. And so it does lead people to believe that sometimes these guys aren't as important to the team, or that they can't come on to serve a role and be actually an important part of the team, be it immediately now or into the far future. And when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks and general manager John Schneider, this has been at the epicenter of a little bit of how he's gone about his business throughout his time in Seattle, being that the undrafted rookie free agent class is always a secondary part to his draft. It's not also-rans, it's not camp fodder, it's not just to have guys onto the roster that are there to help you get through practice. It is because you think you can find diamonds in the rough. It is because you believe in your development process. It's because you understand the hunger that you can get from those select kind of guys that had to go through the ringer to get to the NFL, who weren't given their spot on a silver platter. And Hawks have certainly benefited this with a variety of guys through the years who have risen to the surface as undrafted rookie free agents. Guys like Doug Baldwin, who is one of the best receivers in Seahawks history, who was an undrafted rookie free agent. Of course, you got Poona Ford, a defensive tackle here that was an undrafted rookie free agent coming in that is still playing in the NFL, is going to end up having a 10-year career. And I do remember when he came in as that undrafted rookie free agent at the time, that this was a guy that pundits who were really in the know, who really paid attention to the drafts, were saying, well, this is a guy who had no business not being drafted. Yes, he's undersized, 6 feet tall, but this is a guy that's going to play 10 years in this league. He will be able to play in this sport. And that has proven to be the case with Poona Ford. But it also even goes into recent memory, does it not? Because last year, we were doing this very same exact show. My UDFA show, looking at those guys that were coming in last year and who was likely to make the roster. Because that's what we're going to be looking at today, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is the guys that, as I look at the available guys that they have signed, I'm trying to distill down as I can to who I believe is going to be the guys likely or have the best chance to really make this team. And as you can see by my thumbnail from last year, the guy there just second from the left is Mr. Bobo. So of my 4 targeted guys, certainly one of them did make it. One of them did have impact, because Jake Bobo went on last year and had a really good year for your Seahawks, even though he wasn't asked to always be out there 24/7. What snaps you gave him to go work with, he utilized to the utmost. We featured in a show a couple of weeks ago here. And so again, I'm going to do the same sort of thing here with this show this year. And hopefully we can find another diamond in the rough, another guy that nobody's thinking about necessarily rising up to the surface to have a helping hand in the Seahawk team. And I brought it down to 4 guys. There is certainly more. Everyone's going to have a little bit of their kind of pet guys that they like on this team, or that they feel extra specially good about. That's to be sure. I've looked at a lot of these guys on this list, so it's not from a lack of looking at them. And some of them are some interesting cats, like Garrett Greenfield out of South Dakota State. He could be an interesting tackle. I don't know if he's really going to be good enough to push a guy like Michael Jarrell, but maybe a practice squad kind of guy. Carlton Johnson is a guy that was a real fringe draftable cornerback. Ro Torrance is a guy I'm very interested to see how Mike McDonald uses him, because he is such a big, long corner out of Arizona State. Just a big old guy. Of course, the running back situation is wide open right now. And we're going to talk about one of those guys in a second. But on top of the guy I'm going to talk about, you got Kobe Lewis coming in. You got Tamarick Williams coming in here too. So you got some interesting bodies being brought in for what is kind of an open battle theoretically for both the 3rd and the 4th running back role. it was really stood out to me when looking at what John Schneider did in this draft. If you guys remember back, going back a couple months, that John actually made it so that he was going to be done by the 6th round. That's when the Seahawks were going to be finished up. They had made all their picks, and this was going to give him an opportunity then to really go out there and beat the bushes, to go out there and find the best undrafted rookie free agents he could, or to prep guys up so that when the draft ending, when round 7 comes to a conclusion, he's not just starting from square one with the calls. He's already put the calls in. He's got everybody kind of on lockdown. And that's a lot of what it feels like he did, because I feel like there is at least 3 guys I really feel good about on a quality factor from an undrafted rookie free agent standpoint. I'm talking B+, A- kind of value if you want to put it or ascribe it to these kind of players in that way. And one other one that I think has got right on the fringe of being in that kind of same territory. So let's look at these 4 guys. Be with an open mind on this, because these are guys that can come down the road and end up helping your team out. Yes, the odds are sometimes long, but we have to also understand that it's a purposeful part of this organization. It doesn't just happen because, oh, we got lucky, one of them happened to pop. But because the organization specifically makes this part of how they build their team a very important and thorough part of how they build the team. Not merely just as a tack-on kind of situation, I believe. At least in just kind of studying John and how he does this through the years, that's the impression I get. Maybe I'm being a little bit kind to him, but just the impression I do get as far as when I look at him. First guy we're going to look at is going to be the running back position. And there are a couple of running backs on this roster. It's going to be a hell of a roster battle for both that 3rd and 4th role. I think McIntosh probably has number 3 locked on up. But that 4th running back role, an NFL roster, you're going to hold 4 running backs at any one given time. Maybe 5, but really more often than not, it's 3 tight ends to the 4 running backs. That's kind of the way the offsuit works on that. So 4 running backs, you've got your first 2 set. You've got McIntosh probably locked in. I think this next guy is going to be the guy to really snatch, unless that kid out of the UFL that they went out there and got, who's just a kind of a different runner altogether from this guy. But this guy, I think, is really going to go out there and snatch that 4th running back role. He's a very complete running back. He gives you a variety of different skills in his bag. And I'm talking about Mr. George Holani out of Boise State, a guy that's played a lot of college football. There is some injuries that have popped up with him in his career, but as you can see here over my shoulder, ran for almost 3,000 yards in his 5-year career. Very productive player. It's really, as much as anything, I think if you're talking about why he dropped out of the draft, is the injuries were just enough to push a guy that might be a 5th, 6th, 7th round guy off the draft boards. Where, okay, he'd be drafted if he had a clean bill of health, but we're not so sure there's a clean bill of health. Of course, here you're risking nothing by taking that jump into the deep waters on this one. And Holani is a very good player. He is a back with a lot of different things that he can do, as I'm going to show you guys here. And like we've been doing here a little bit throughout the offseason recently, we're going to go through some cut-ups. We're going to talk about this guy. We're going to discuss what he does bring to play here on this team, kind of the variety of skills he sort of brings to play. Now, one thing that jumps out when you first are going to turn on the tape with Holani is that you've got a little bit of speed. You've got an ability to find a home run. You know, he's going to be a guy that is if there's a nice hold there, he can certainly bust it. Wrong one there. Wrong one. Get my cuts right. So right here, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things he does. Change of direction, ability to use his vision in the open field, keep his feet, balance. I want to show this first run because of that. There's all these little things you're going to see over the course of these highlights. I'm going to show you first. Change of direction. Full speed, change of direction. Can you bounce full speed? You see here, he twists that whole defender all around. The other thing I want you to notice is this, right? Bang, there. He's got a strange innate ability to get off ankle tackles where he can feel the feet. See how he kind of jumps his feet off when it goes down to his feet? He shoots his feet up just as he feels it coming there, so the guy can't take his feet out from underneath him. He's got that ability as well. You see it again here. See how he just rolls with the ankle tackle? Rolls with the ankle tackle. That's that balance, but it's also specifically... Stop it, Siri. Stop it, Siri. But it's also... It's not just the balance, it's also just his feel for when guys are diving at his ankles to keep his feet up. You used to always see back in the day when I was growing up in the 80s, they'd show you the Walter Payton highlights and Walter's custom move, kind of like Dion when he'd do his hand behind his back and kick out his legs. Walter's custom move when he'd get down the end zone, when he'd busted a big run, is he'd be kicking his legs out. He'd give you sort of the high knees kind of thing. And it's a little technique running backs can use to, of course, get out of those ankle tackles. But you got the speed, you got the change of direction, you got the ability to get out of those ankle tackles, break tackles, balance, everything there on that kind of first run to give you a bit of an idea of what you're getting with him. Again, change of direction, boom, boom, 2 change direction, open field, a little bit of burst. He's not a full 4-4 guy in the open field. You know, he's probably a 4-5-5-ish kind of guy, but he does have the burst. So he's got the ability in a 5-yard area, especially, to get up and get away from defenders. That stands out. And again, he's going to finish every run, runs really hard. I would never want to put any kind of like Chris Carson sort of comparisons to this kid, but you can see how he just takes the physicality of that player right there. Much like Chris would do, this kid will do in the same way. He doesn't have the same kind of acme weight in the shorts that sort of Carson could, you know, where he could run with that just really, really, really nice power and legit 220, 225. He's probably more like 210, 215-ish at his heaviest. But again, open field, can he run away from guys? Can he get up and go? Does he got the burst you look for almost at the first and foremost? The burst right here. You're going through the hole. You've got 2 defenders right there closing. Do you have the burst to get through that hole? Or are you going to be just slow enough to where they can catch up to you? And you see neither of these 2 guys are able to get a hand on him. Bad angles tackle taken. Another home run on this play. But that burst, even more than the speed, what stands out when you look at Holani. Catching the ball. He's going to be a complete player. He's going to be able to provide you an ability to use this element into his game. And if you need him to become a third down back, he can become a third down back. Over and over on his tape, highlights, or if you go watch the game film, you see they're using him as part of the passing attack. Again, here you get the balance. There's real no angle here after he makes the catch to even get this in. Look where he's at, the 10-yard line. He's got about 1.5 yards space. Look where that defender is. And the fact that he's able to punch this in gets the guy to break down and gets right past him after the catch. But he's got some good hands. The kid actually can catch, so he could become potentially a third down back if you need him to fit into that role at some point. Part of what might even give him a little bit of a, look at the fearlessness here. It's that just a little bit of the Carson kind of vibes. Just, I don't care in the open field. I'll throw my body around wantonly. Doesn't matter. I'm going to get an extra 3 yards. It's not always for a big play, just to get a couple extra. Hey, he's trying to get the first. You know, what are you going to do? Some more catches here. Send him out in the flat. Get him up the field. Touchdown. Easy. Nothing fancy here. Just a broken play by the defense. But you're in the snow. We all know it's never easy to catch in the snow. Another play here. Out in the flat, take it, change of direction. Ankle tackle's not going to work with him. You better wrap up. Love this about these highlights is I try to, with these pick these, is that they give you a flavor of a couple things he can do. First thing he can do, defender's coming up. Look at that. You got 2 guys right there. There's no way you should be breaking that tackle, right? They should be able to corral him right up. Oop. See ya. See ya. And he just can do that thing where he can use that defender's leverage against him. See how he almost kind of uses the leverage of the defender. The leverage is wrapping, and he's using the leverage to help kind of spin him back to the left and make this cut just a little bit tighter. Nice little run by Holani there. Play action, another throw to the flat. Change of direction again. He can stop on a dime. Burst and change of direction. Not as much open field speed. Not as much size. Change of direction. Burst. 2 things that sit at the forefront with him. One more here, catch here. Nothing fancy, a little screenplay. Retreat a little bit to get a little bit of space. Shed some tackles. What a run. What a run. Whew. That was nice. Look at that. The first subtle thing is on a screenplay, watch how he comes back to the ball. He feels the defender behind him. The defender's right there, so I got to come back. He feels 93 closing in. Come back a little bit, retreat. Retreat just a little bit to then get back up the field. Break that tackle, break that. He broke 93 twice. Look at this. He got 93 twice. Got him once here. And then he gets him again right here. This ain't going to be 93's best tape on this one. You had 2 shots at him? I can just hear the coach. 2 shots? It's like, Bill was on your right. Bill was on your right. You had help. Force him inside. Don't give him that shoulder. That's just a great run by Holani, though. So you're seeing these things he can bring. I mentioned Chris Carson. I'd call this kind of some kind of Chris Carson cut-ups that I got here of him that look kind of Carson to me. I don't know if you guys will feel the same. I'll be interested to hear you guys' feedback on this one. But I get some Carson vibes off this kind of run. I'm never going to go down easy. I'm never going to die easy, as Marshawn Lynch would say. His coach used to tell him, never die easy. Fight for every last yard. Keep those legs churning. Surprising power for his size. Kind of Carsonist. Carsonist. He's a Carsonist. I just coined that, and that's going on a shirt. Again, kind of a Carson run here when I watched this. This was the vibes I was getting. Right there. I mean, remember when we'd have Carson, he'd get hit right there on that shoulder low. He'd go down and meet the guy's shoulder low. Legs then just keep driving through. Something just, it's not full on. I'm making the comp. I ain't making the Carson. He's not got the size. He doesn't got enough engine in there to get that quite done from that standpoint. But just that, out of backs here, just going to slide this off and close this run down. He's going to keep it going, lower his shoulder, and try to keep those, always falling forward, always getting a couple extra yards. Another Carsonist run here. Carsonist run. Just not going down, not looking for the place where he can find a soft landing. Changing direction, fighting. Behind his pads, running low. Really like Holani's tape. The injury stuff's a little bit of a concern, but the tape is very nice. I certainly think he's a draftable grade guy, if not for the injury aspect. Here, just the burst you feel here. Not messing around off the snap, not playing around, gets downhill quick, finds his hole, spins off contact. First guy's rarely going to break him down if he gets is going to bring him down if he's in the open field, that is. You get him around the line of scrimmage, you can kind of get your hands around him and bring him down, but you can see this is then just to show off a little bit of that burst, and again, that Carson kind of finish. You're never going to get me down easy. Change of direction. Big part of this guy's game. First, change of direction. Gets penetration in the backfield. Has another guy to tackle him down here. First, look at this here. Dead to rights. Dead to rights right there. Penetration allowed by the lineman. He's kind of toast. Uses a little sort of hop, little jump. See how he engages the little jump step there? Boom. Jumps past. That'd be good enough right there, right? Already a good run right there as it is. But then works his way back into his block. See this? See the leg go out, bang, and then look at 67. He's working his way back in the block. The block comes back here and helps him out. Very creative. Use your blockers. Very good usage of vision here too in the open field. Creative. Fun. Another carry inside here, change of direction. Oop. Finally get him down. It's a play. This is supposed to be an inside zone run. The hole's opening up, though, to the left side to the top. He's got that defender to his right that he can feel. 2 defenders near him. That burst I mentioned to you guys, where he can get to that burst and engage that in order for him to allow where he's got defenders close to him, but he can get away from them in short spaces. Little runs here. A little bit of power from Holani as well. A little bit after this catch. First guy, no. A little bit of what you want to watch with him being a guy, not the biggest guy, is can he fight through the first tackle? Can he get through that? Can he tear through that? Sometimes he can on tape. If you get him around the line of scrimmage, you're going to bring him down fairly, you can bring him down fairly easy, but if he gets up to speed, if he gets out in space, it's a different story. Again, just head down. Lowers his head, Part of the reason he's been injured a little bit much is he's definitely going to be violent in his running style. And this is just another nice run here where, again, vision, balance, change of direction. I mean, he's in the hole here with 96 on his back. 96 is on his back right here. Slides right off of him. And then look at the acceleration to get past the next defender. And then just the dive just to style on him at the end. That's just a swag move right there. That's all that is. He didn't even have to do that. That was just to give some style points. But 96 block is blown, got him in the hole. That's a 320-pound man on his back trying to pull him down. Slides off like he's greased up. So a little bit of power, a little bit of strength to him. You wouldn't necessarily think that with them looking at him at first, that he's maybe just a finesse back, just going to dance around and kind of run around a little bit. But even here, how low he gets here. Taking that guy on, head up. That's a much bigger defender coming downhill there. I think that guy probably outweighs him by 15 pounds. Boom. Still gets through it, keeps his feet, gets a couple extra. That's just that little bit of that Carson thing. Showed a touchdown a second ago on this kind of same side of the field he was running. You had 2 downs here where they had to get it in. Takes the first carry. Again, penetration in the backfield. Able to get away from the penetration with 94 on him there. 94 just shoots the gap and rips 71 back. Okay, now you got 2 defenders. After you gotten away from that trouble, you got 2 defenders a yard and a half away from you now. Manages to engage the acceleration. Get off the ankle black. Remember the ankle tackles I was telling you he can get through. If you try to get down to the ankle, if you're not on the thigh and you end up on the ankle, that's not going to work. You got to be up on the thigh with him because he can get through that. And then almost gets in just a little bit short. So we come back the next play. Can you finish the deal? They know it's coming. You know, look at all those guys at the line of scrimmage. Look at all those guys at the line of scrimmage. There's no pass in here. They know you're not going to pass. You know we're not going to pass. We know we're not going to pass. We ain't passing. We're coming downhill. Fullback, old school. That's probably a defensive lineman too at 98 there is the fullback. And he just gets right in. Untouched. Untouched. Nice play. So Holani's a guy that I like a lot for this team. I think that he is going to take this 4th spot because of these skill sets that he has, where this isn't just your typical maybe 4th running back on a roster who, you know, you would look at. And again, here you see the acceleration. There's penetration in the backfield by the defensive tackle, 55, centering your screen. And he just can't catch up to the kid. Able to run away from him in very short space. Got an angle. No, you don't. I think this kid's going to make not only the roster, but I think he's going to slide into being your 4th down back. He'll be sort of your backup. You know, we don't know the pecking order yet, whether it's going to be Charbonnet, McIntosh, or if it's going to be McIntosh, Charbonnet as the 3rd down back. However that goes, you've got then your 3rd guy in there, I think, in what he brings. His ability to catch. He can do a couple of different things for you as far as a running back goes from that position. I think that's going to prove too tantalizing. And I think it was one of our first undrafted rookie free agents that we signed in this kid. So a really, really fun running back that they brought in here. There's an open spot for him to make this roster. As I look through these players, there's only one other guy who I think could come on and maybe have as much actual substantial, I'm not going to call it impact, but substantial helping hand into this next upcoming season. A few of these guys are going to be more long-term guys we're looking down the road on, though they'll either make the roster or make the practice squad. This would be a guy that I would say this guy could make the roster, and then he could serve into that 4th role. He could end up getting to the end of the season and we go, wow, we got George Holani 50 carries, and he caught 20 other passes out of the backfield over the course of the season. But a really fun back, a lot of things he can do, ability to hit a home run, short spaces, got the burst, balance, can get off the ankle tackles, has some hands out of the backfield. Kind of unusual you'd get this kind of undrafted rookie free agent with kind of this multiple skill set that he does offer, but that injury thing I think was the main thing that kept him from being drafted, and then you were able to obviously provide him, I think, the best, softest landing. This is the other part of it, is that he's a good back, and so then you go, well, why aren't other teams wanting this good back? Well, because of the fact that we've got the spot we can offer on that 4th spot in the roster that's wide open for him to go take. He can look around the league and go find the Seattle Seahawks and say, well, they've got their 3 backs in place. That much is true, but they don't got a 4th. I got my door open there. It's not to make the practice squad, to make the roster. It's right there to be taken. So again, this is a little bit of how did they land him? It was John being done in the 6th round. Probably called George up with one of his first calls. Said, we got a spot for you here, a true 4th spot. You're getting a good talent there, and this is how you did that on that spot. This is how you're able to pick up that guy. This is just the way it would look to me. Next guy I want to take a look at here is going to be a local kid. And this is not a guy as much who's going to be a guy I would look at and say is someone that will be making this impact this season necessarily, unless there is an injury. This is one that we would be looking long-term, specifically next season. Not long-term, 2 to 3 years from now, but a guy that I would look to see make the practice squad, who maybe has a chance to make the full-time squad if the Seahawks wanted to try to hold 4 tight ends, or even try to consider this guy more of maybe like a fullback type, which they did at times put him at fullback. Little bits, but they did use him this way. Westover was the tight end for that very explosive University of Washington team that had 2 tight ends that came out in this last draft. I think Culp was, I can't remember if he was out. I think Culp was drafted, his running mate there at UW. And what stands out to me with Westover is that the last 2 years with UW, you've had 3 receivers there that are awesome receivers, guys that are legit. We're all legit drafted in this last draft and drafted very highly and very productive at that. But yet you were still able to go out there over these past couple seasons and find 77 catches and almost 800 yards in receiving for Jack Westover on top of that, 5 touchdown receptions. So it is interesting to me that he was able to be so productive with having kind of necessarily at times the limited run he'd have. I mean, Washington would be in 4 wide receiver sets where he wasn't even the tight end on the field. Sometimes he wasn't the number 1 tight end on the field at those times. Yet when he was out there, he was able to go out and make some hay, and certainly had, I thought, a really, really fine season for the Seahawks this last year. Or not Seahawks, but for the Huskies this last year, and just being really especially clutch in those moments. It seemed like whenever there was a big throw, and we'll be showing a couple of these to you, but whenever there was a big throw for Michael Penix to have to make, he was going to go in Westover's case, especially like a 4th and 3 or 4th and 4 or 3rd and 5. He's going to go find Jack. And it wasn't always going to be the easiest throw that he was going to have to make Jack have to make the catch on. Easy, by the way. They would sometimes be a little bit tough. But first, where we start with on Westover is he's a good route runner. This is, of course, an undersized guy. He's a pure H-back type from the tight end position. So he's going to be a guy that is going to be off ball like you're seeing here. Step off the ball. You want to keep him off press. There are some that have kind of mentioned him as being kind of a Jacob Hollister type from a couple years ago. I think he's a little bit better than that. I think you can kind of feel a little bit with him and how he's going to catch here. Notice the hands out away from the body and the way he's grabbing the ball. He's got pretty fluid, easy hands out there in space. So it does stand out there, but he can run these short little routes pretty crispy overall. Here you have, so here, if you look to your right on this one, you can't really see him at the start of this the way they have this film, but you're going to look to the far right of the screen, and you're going to see Westover kind of sit down in the zone here on the route running. So see how he's supposed to sort of sit down here, feels the defender. I think he also kind of feels the other defender going deep, dropping to the cover 3 drop there. And so rather than sit down, see how he picks his feet back up and then finds that hole right there in the zone for Penix. So feels the first defender. The route's supposed to have him stop here. Feels the defender, almost going right to the secondary route quickly, creates that hole there for Michael Penix. He's got a little bit of acumen in running the routes. He understands how, like you want all tight ends to, sit down in the hole. Find the hole in the zone. What do they mean by that? That's not the hole in the zone. That's the hole in the zone. Not the hole in the zone. That's the hole in the zone. But you can see this isn't a stop. This isn't a sluggo route. Stop and go. It's not a stop and go route. Bump, 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 bump. He's to a stop right there. He's going because he feels the defender. His eyes are right there on the defender, feeling what the defender's doing. Route running is not always just about running those crispy, tight cutting routes. Another nice route here. I don't know what he's doing with his hands. Hands are getting a little floppy here, but the feet are tight. Footwork's nice. In cutting route opens right up. Penix delivers a nice ball into a tight space here. So 37. Try to highlight this if I can for you guys. Might help. All right. So 37 is this guy right here for you guys. Go back, try to show this as I can. I'm trying to make these clear for when I show you guys these, so if I can. So we got 37 on the slot. Keep your eyes on him. Bump, bump, bump. Floppy hands. Make the catch. Nice little route. Nothing fancy. You're not going to expect wide receiver route running from these guys as tight ends. Comes back the ball here. Bottom of your screen. Got both sides kind of equally stacked with the two receivers on each side. Looking to sit down. Same kind of little floppy hand move he did before. Cuts off the stem of the route, gets open. And I feel like this might even be kind of an option route with him, where he's able to feel the defender's leverage. You can see the defender. I know it leaves the screen a little bit, but right there you see the defender number 2. He's on his left shoulder. So if you're going to feel the leverage, you're going to feel the left shoulder leverage. You're going to work it off the right, off your cut. And that's what he does. Catching the ball out away from his hands, out away from his body. Not looking to cradle it in there, but catch it out away. Got really good hands, and that's because of that. Not looking to see where he can kind of cheat and cradle it up. Let me show you a couple of those hands he's got here. Penix makes this unnecessarily hard. This is a bubble screen. So top of your screen. It's a nice little setup, by the way. Can you imagine if he whips this one out on Sundays? You got 2 linemen to the top of your screen, Westover sitting behind him. You have your center sitting alone with, I guess we'll call it a fullback. and you got Odunze going in motion for the hell of it. But watch this throw by Penix, how hard he makes this. And consider this is a throw that's about 5 yards away from you. So you don't have a large time to react to this. You're expecting the throw to be down a little bit more inside, not up. And then you have Brandon Dorless here just about going house the thing, where his hand flashes right in front of your face just before you make the catch. Makes the grab, punches it in. Touchdown. Nice play there by. A lot harder catch than it had to be there. Play action here. Lays out. Just a nice grab. I think this was a 3rd down too, if I'm not mistaken. 3rd and 5. That's that clutch catch timing thing going on. Gets his hands out away from his body, reels it in, gets the ball in. You can tell when guys can smooth and easily catch it out away from him when they're fighting their hands, when it's a little bit harder for them to get that done. He can be a little bit of an acrobat at times, can this kid? A little bit of I'm able to contort and turn. It's part of what helps him out with his catch radius, where he's able to spin back, turn around for the ball, lean back and go get it. You can see that here on this play a little bit, where you got a receiver throwing him the ball. He's going the opposite way. Got to pull his hands back the other way. Make the grab. He's about to get decked. Hit right in the head. Ow. 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 Okay. Doesn't feel good. Got to make that catch. Another good body control. Penix with just a beautiful throw here. Look at that throw by Penix. Right over the outstretched fingers. I don't even think Westover was sure this ball was going to get in here. Again, hands are up though. Notice hands are up. Yes, it gets down to kind of a cradle, but he's getting the hands up to attack the ball, which you want to see from these guys. Turning his body full speed, going to take a hit, knows it, takes the hit, makes the catch. Tough kid on top of everything else. So good little player in what he brings on that. I mentioned also the clutch part of it. Can't be undersold enough how many big catches he made on those catches this last year. How many times it was on these third down and 3, 3rd and 4 situations, and Penix would go look to him, and he would find him open in the middle of the field when he would. No doubt about it. This is one of my favorite plays from Westover of the year last year. This is a 4th and 1. This is against the University of Oregon. This is for your season. This isn't a game that is tight as they come. This is for the opportunity to go play for national title. It's all on the line. We can't mess this up. You can't drop this ball. And Penix throws a duck. Penix throws an absolute duck on 4th and 1. And this kid says, I will this catch to happen. We are playing for that national title. We're going to play that national title. Look at his hands underneath that thing. What a thing of beauty. One of my favorite plays of his last year. Just absolutely love it. When you need it. It's something to make a catch when it's 1st and 10 and they're throwing a 9 route down the ball the first quarter. It's another thing where you're getting deep into the game. You're in your own territory going for it on 4th down. And you need your guy to come up with something like this. Whole nother story. Whole nother story. The other part that I like about him as well with Westover is that he is a very good blocker. That he's a willing blocker. That he'll get after it as a blocker. That you don't have to question whether or not he's going to give you everything he's got in that role. Is he going to drive guys off the ball necessarily? No, he's not a big guy. He's that H-back type. You can see it again right here where he's off ball in his alignment. But he can get the job done. And he's got the willing spirit, and that's sometimes half the battle. So out in space here on the screenplay, leading the way. Clears that man. Look at him. Blocking him into the lines keeper, blocking him into the first down marker. Look at the first down marker guy get out of the way. He's like, this monster's about to throw this guy into me. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Finds his man in space. Nice clean block. A little nastiness to finish it off. And I'm using the highlighter here before the play to show you guys where he is, by the way. Number 37 is who you want to lock in on here. So bottom of your screen will be Westover on this play. Come downhill. Take on I guess that's a linebacker. Hands in, see his hands, rip inside. They're both pretty equal on the low man battle. Keep his feet moving. And eventually, because the rest of the guys don't get anything done, the running back's got to be kind of held up here. That's why the guy eventually gets back into it. It's not really Westover's fault here. In fact, his guy still stays blocked. It's other guys that end up getting the tackle. Good effort, stays with it. Good initial block and good effort. Some of the things you see with him, it gives me a lot of hope for him now, both in the intermediate and in the long term, where you go, well, he's just not just a guy that's going to be here to catch passes. He's also a guy that can, long term, we can look at as maybe being a guy that can handle the duties as a blocker too. So bottom of your screen here at the end of the line of scrimmage. Seals the edge there. This is not an easy block to make, right? Because you're asking this guy to take on a defensive end. So that's a mismatch for a guy that's an undersized tight end. He takes on the defensive end. Shield block. We were talking about this with Haynes last week when I was doing some of the Haynes cut up. Of not only do you get the guy pinned, but then make sure you've got to where he's got no pathway back to getting the ball carrier. Between you and the ball carrier, the man. And then he can go get that first down. Real nice block though. And a good indicator he can get this done as he goes forward, as he add a little more weight, get a little stronger for the pro game, but it does show they can do it in college. I tend to feel like it gives me a good indicator he can do it in the pros. Again, same kind of place, bottom of your screen here. You got Westover 37. Lays in that block, gets low on, this is Brandon Dorless. This is a drafted NFL player right here. He's doing this too. Gets low, hands inside. Drives his feet. He's giving up power. He's giving up pounds to Dorless here. One of the reasons I didn't like Dorless, quite frankly. But that's a nice block. Taking on a defensive end for your tight end. If other guys had done better inside, that play would have gone for more. All right, you're at the line of scrimmage here. You're at the you're in danger of a safety here. Top of the formation is going to be Westover there, just a little bit off ball. like we saw before, sinks his hips, gets his hands inside. Not a lot he can do because nothing's really being done right on the other end. They got an unblocked defender just getting in there, but he does what he can on that. The last couple ones here of him blocking. Just want to get this fully across that he can do this, as you're seeing a lot of this even coming from the same game. Here's the bottom of your screen, bottom of the formation there. Comes out of his stance, takes on the linebacker. Again, can't do much because the play is going away from him, but that's all you need. Everybody else blocks it up right. Everybody else kind of does their job, then that's all you need him to do. Last one here. So we got Westover here. Set up looking like kind of a pass pro at the start. Gets down and drives his man. Boom. Gets the block laid, lays it nice, continues to drive the block, not looking to just do the bare minimum, looking to finish the block. When I look at Westover, I see a guy who's a capable route runner, who has really nice hands for the position, who is technically a pretty strong blocker, very willingness as far as the attitude and want to do it, which so oftentimes, like I said before, is when you're watching the tape on these guys, such a big indicator about whether or not they can get it done. Is it really does become sometimes less about true size and length and all that, and sometimes does he really just want to get after it? And I'm talking about when we're talking about wide receivers or tight ends that are trying to be blockers, because that oftentimes outside of the actual lineman can make more of a difference, I think. Whereas linemen, yeah, okay, I'm missing 2 inches of arm length. That's going to make a difference inside. I'm going to feel that for sure. But he gives you these different parts to his game. It's a little bit like Holani, where you feel like, okay, I'm not just getting a guy that I got to drive into a very tiny little box of skill and say, okay, we got to use you within this tiny little box, but actually can be used in a variety of places. He was used in line. He was used as an H-back. Yes, I do believe H-back is probably his long-term best position when you look at it, but that's not to say that he can't also do some inline stuff as he adds a little bit more weight. There's also some snaps in there with this guy of even at like the kind of a fullback position at times in watching it. I was meaning to get a couple more tapes out. Wasn't able to get the cut-ups of it, but he's even gives you at times a little bit of that. I might have a couple in here of this where, he's a very strong runner with the ball. No doubt about that. He'll fight through, he'll finish these, as you can see on this kind of play where he finishes and sort of rolls off the tackle here and gets on into the touchdown. He's definitely got that, but I do wonder too, if you're looking at a guy, many people have asked me about, kind of a Kyle Juszczyk guy that can run with a little bit of strength and power and can do some things after the catch and give you a little bit of, and as I was saying here, he does get some fullback snaps. So here you've got him in the fullback and they give it to him, little fullback keeper. All my people playing Madden or the new college game know about this play. This is an instant touch. You played Madden or you're playing college football, this is an instant touchdown. This is no doubt about it if you run that play. Fullback dive out of goal line. Instant touchdown. And Westover running the fullback dive. So I started thinking a little bit. I'm like, maybe a little fullback action later on too, huh? Let's remember, we got his college coach here. His college coach who ran him out of fullback in college at times. Could maybe run it here. And runs it strong there at the goal line, doesn't he? Here again, get the ball into his hands, lowers his shoulders, fights through some tackles. Sorry, didn't get the camera angle right on this one, but he'll get in there. He'll finish runs. So one little extra part on top of it, being a guy that, you make references to a guy like the comparison sometimes I've heard of Hollister. Hollister was a guy that wanted to catch everything in on his body. Hollister was not the most willing blocker or ferocious blocker, and he was going to get tossed around if he even gave it a try. He certainly wasn't going to run with any kind of strength or power. If you put a hand on Hollister, you were going to take him down to the ground. So this guy's got a little bit more in his bag. If we're looking for kind of a better comparison for him, maybe a little bit of some openings there to do the fullback. Can the fullback come back? Can it come back into play? Well, we shall see on that one. But I do like a lot of what I see with this kid, and I don't think he's going to be on there next year. You're set with right now Noah Fant in place. You've got A.J. Barner, and you did sign Pharaoh Brown. And you're only going to keep 3 tight ends, 4 running backs. So those are your 3 tight ends. This kid is probably going to go to the practice squad. But there's going to be a big opening there for him to then come back into next year in 2025, where the Seahawks are going to have to make a decision on Fant's contract. Do they want to go through the final year on that deal at that point? Do they want to save some money and move on? Barner is going to suit to be your real inline guy for the future, at the very least, to handle those duties. So you may then have an opening for the H-back, which is where then Westover will be able to slide right in. Granted, it'll be a little bit of a year from now, but you're going to be able to give him a year of time to develop from within the building, develop that chemistry in there with Gino and the rest of the boys. So fun player for the now, fun player for the future. A guy I did have a draftable grade because of these different skills he brings. I see a player that can do a variety of different things. And I go, well, I can understand that there's a lack of explosiveness. I can understand that there's a lack of speed. I can understand that there's a lack of prerequisite size and length. But the kid's just a football player. What is that worth? What does that account for? And that is the case with this guy. So Westover, my number 2 guy that I think not going to make the roster like I think Holani will. But I do believe that he will nonetheless be a guy that will long-term be a part of this team's plans in some way or another, even if it's just to become eventually the 3rd tight end of the roster down the road. Radu Turkan, thank you for the $2 donation. I appreciate you for that. He says, McIntosh versus Holani, which had the better tape? McIntosh had the better tape to me, Radu. Holani's got a really awesome highlight tape that is, I don't want to undersell. It's, as you saw, some from those cut-ups, which is taken from some of that's taken from the highlight tape. Some of it's from the film that I watched of him. So he's got a great highlight tape, and McIntosh did to a degree too, though McIntosh wasn't as much of the home run guy out there in Georgia. I think there's the level of competition the two are going up against is, we got to speak on that, Radu. I think you get a big difference between Mountain West and the not ACC, but the conference I can't think of right now, but the biggest conference we got in the SEC. It's a big difference in the level of competition you're dealing with. But the full skill set of McIntosh is better than Holani at the end of the day on that side of it. So I think McIntosh has a bit more of an ability. McIntosh ran so much. They both run violently. McIntosh can get out of more tackles around the line of scrimmage. Holani around the line of scrimmage, Radu, can be brought down at times somewhat easily. He does his best tackle breaking work once he gets into space. McIntosh can break tackles in space too, but you can also trust on McIntosh a little bit more between the tackles, a little bit more to fight through, those tackles at the line. I think that'd be the big distinguishing factor. And then McIntosh, of course, too, being the better route runner, more of almost a purified receiver type. You saw in those catches to Holani, and he has a lot of catches on his tape, and he's got a lot of catches on his stats, but it is a lot of him going into the flat and throwing it into the flat. With McIntosh, you have him actually running route tree stuff, going into the slot and running it like a slot wide receiver. Great question, though, Radu. Fantastic question. Dale, thank you for 17 long months as a Hawks Nest member. I really appreciate that. He says, Devin Witherspoon is the future at the linebacker. Go Cougs. We shall see. There is a huge, wide, you could drive a semi-truck hole through the opening that exists as far as the depth in this linebacking core right now as it currently stands. There is an opportunity for a guy to have spent this offseason, Snail, doing that, rocky montage of training, just carrying trees on his back, up there climbing hills and stuff, wrestling with bears, doing what he's got to do to get himself in shape for the season. And if there's that guy that's been out there doing it that way and just like this kid, I imagine would be just hungry for his shot, hungry to have an opportunity to make a roster, to not only make a roster, but maybe have some impact and to get on there and play. This kid's got all the opportunity in the world. You couldn't ask for things to be wider open for him to go take advantage of it. So we'll see if he can, this linebacker from the University of Washington State. But it's there for the taking, Snail. It is absolutely there for the taking. Air Grenade says, I'm going to McDonald's. Anyone want anything? All right, let's keep it moving here, folks. And we're going to go to, let's keep it offensively driven before we get to my one defensive guy that I've got on this list. And this kid we're going to look at here is going to be Hayden Hatton. Hatton. His name is Hatton. A University of Washington or Idaho wide receiver who has had absolute monstrous production over the last 2 years in particular. He gave you a little bit of a flash in 2020 with 630 yards receiving on 43 catches, a big play waiting to happen. But the last 2 years, 83 receptions in 2022 with 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns, 16 receiving touchdowns, and then came back and followed that up this past year with 92 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So 25 receiving touchdowns over the past 2 years for this kid out of Idaho. Again, like Holani, there's a little bit of the Mountain West-ish level of competition you wonder about. He is gargantuan, big old 6'4" kid, long arms, really, really, really big catch radius. So let's look a little bit at what Hayden brings to the table. And I think the first thing that we've got to concentrate on, the exciting thing to look at with Hayden Hatton, just like to say his name. It's like a kind of like a comic book name a little bit. The first thing I want to take a look at with Hayden is going to be how he high points the ball with you guys, because this is what will help him find, I think, initially a way into this league, and he's going to have this translate as he comes to the pro level for some reasons that we'll be getting into. So high pointing the ball is when you watch this guy's tape, you can see he's able to not only have a big catch radius, but elongate that catch radius. In this case, get it from a low ground place. He's not a big guy that can't get low and go pick it if he's got to go pick it. But you can not necessarily have an accurate pass to him, and he will go find that ball, which shows up quite a bit when you watch some of his tape. There's not a lot of tape of Idaho out there, so you got to kind of pick through a little bit of it. But you can feel even here, able to go up. I mean, this is straight out of the Moss book in the dictionary. You look up Moss in the dictionary, Moss and fools in the dictionary. This is what you're going to get, like Urban Dictionary. Goes up, guy doesn't get his head turned around, gets his hands out away from his body, high points it, jumps up. Corner's got no chance. Look, the corner's in his chest, and he's still able to rip this ball down. Strong hands, very strong hands. This is going to be something that he's going to have translate. Route running is not going to be the greatest for this kid. So it's going to have to come from a spot of him doing this. You, again here, he's to your top of your screen. He's a little bit floppy in the movements too for me at times. Not in a bad way, but just the arms are a little bit like he's got gloves coming off the end of his fingertips when he runs. Just a little bit like a little flop there. But a well-run route, he's wide open on this play. Look at the separation he creates on the out route. And then the quarterback makes a piss-poor throw. So he's got to go up. Look at it. Look at how much harder that quarterback made that throw than he had to. Where he's wide open. You just throw it on him and you're fine. And he puts it way up there, able to make the catch, get the 1 foot down. Hell, gets the 2 feet down. This is counting the pros. Boom, boom. Maintain possession. He's got this in his abilities. He can do this stuff. Another throw here. Back shoulder. Corner's just trying to stay. Never gets his head back in time. Nice little grab there. Nothing fancy on that one. Quarterback play wasn't the best that he was working with. And we can't undersell this as well. These guys didn't have the greatest of arm strength and the greatest of accuracy. Look at this here. Between two defenders. Goes up. Just gets it. It's a ridiculous catch. That's a ridiculous catch. As far as it's, you never like to go to one skill and go, this one thing is going to have him carry the day, but it's a pretty good one thing. It's not too shabby. You're going to have one skill you can lean with. Mawson ain't the worst one. Defenders just never even get a chance at it. You just love the way he attacks the ball here. Very explosive straight line. Very explosive in his leaping ability. Boom. Go get that ball. Get over the top of that smaller corner. Use your size not only to box the guy out. Use your size to go up and get the ball at a place that he can't go get. That corner ain't getting the ball there. That corner can just sit and watch. That's all he can do in this spot. And that's that part where I say where he's big enough, he's long enough, he's got enough explosiveness to where maybe that can translate. And he can lean on that early on as he maybe can refine down a little bit of his route running. This is my favorite one of his from last year. Absolutely just an amazing catch. Like, he had to come off the field after this one for a couple of snaps. Full layout. Giving his body up completely for this throw. Just goes and takes it out of the air. There's never a chance for this corner to make any play on the ball. Just, he's taking this out of the air right there. What's that corner going to do there? Jump in front of it? I mean, from the corner's perspective, I'm step for step with him. Hell, I'm in front of him on the route. He just goes and takes it away from him. Just a fantastic catch. Something that stands out. I don't know what to make of it at times with him. I really don't. This is a broken play, so coverage just loses him. I don't understand how many times I watch on the tape with him, especially going through some of the highlights on him, of just how wide open he'll be on some of these plays where there's nobody near him. Nobody within 4 or 5 steps of him. That he's just somehow, and I know I'm knocking him on the route running. Maybe it is the route running. Some of it feels like busted coverage, and I don't always know what to make of it. Well, there's nobody in 15 yards around him. And I guess that could be attributed to route running. It's hard to say without the all-22 look. We'll see it here again. Kind of throw it over here. Wide open. Kind of run a slow crosser here. You see him top of the screen, so it's kind of a stuttered crosser. Looks like he kind of runs it as a post and then turns it into a crosser. Nice 3 yards of separation, though. Again, wide open. Nobody on him in the back of the end zone. Same game we saw earlier where there's the broken coverage. Where is everybody? Are you guys covering anybody? Don't know what to make of it. Maybe it's his master route running. See it here again. He's over there. Everybody's like, what's going on? Look at this guy. Like, look at 30. Are we going to cover this guy? He's already got 1,200 yards last year. We're about to give him another 1,200 yards in this game. Again, just sitting wide open. Almost like no one covered him on the play. Now, he's got a little bit of a nice release at times. Bottom of your screen. This comes out every once in a while with him on the tape. Where you get a little bit of the, ooh, I got some footwork here. He's big enough to just kind of bully guys. But you do like a little bit of this footwork you see from him there. Bottom of your screen again. Pop up. Pop up. It's nothing, it's not sharp. It's not precise. He's a bigger guy, so you're not going to get that from a bigger guy. But there is some route running stuff that's not the best for me. This is a top of the screen. Let me get the highlighter going here so you guys can see where we're going to mark here, because you can kind of watch a little bit of these routes. I don't have the all-22, but I can show you a little bit of this kind of stuff where you watch how the route rounds. See how it rounds? It's upfield, and then you plant and then drive. This is a little more of a, I'm going to just kind of round it around. There's a little bit of that on tape with him. On some of these routes where it's just a little bit, like they would say, wasted movement. So this is an in-cutting route here. Watch how he runs this in-cutting route. Sorry, let me get it highlighted here. My bad. So he's your middle guy here. He's essentially, I think, your slot, I suppose. So, kind of, what is that route? Top of your screen there. Kind of settles down. I know he's kind of settling in the zone, but that's not a precise sit down thing. That's just kind of like lazily kind of coming to a stop. Wasted motion, wasted feet. Just you know. This is the part that he's going to have to clean up. Runs a little like jerk route here, bottom of your screen. The bottom of your screen. Bump, bump, bump. Guy's on him all the way. It's just not going to be sharp enough if he's going to have to run these kind of routes to get open. He's not going to have the quick twitch on that to make it happen. Another route here, bottom of your screen. You know, he gets open here. Coverage is off. It's basically a freebie by the defense for the offense here. Is this a precise sit-down route? Not really. There's kind of an extra step to sit down here. Dun, dun, dun. It's just, it's okay. It's not horrible, but it's going to need to be better at the pro level if he's going to get legit looked at as a guy to get on the roster and be a guy long-term that can do it. Now, there are some times where you do get a good route run from him. So this is a little slant route here, bottom of your screen. You're going to see him come from off screen, bottom of your screen. Very nice separation there. Quarterback throws it behind him, but you can see here coming off the bottom of the screen, 23 at the bottom there. So you got a little bit of separation there. Quarterback throws it back on the body. High points it. Try to go up and get up there as high as he can and keep the man away from him, having a chance at the ball. There's some spots where there's okay routes. Little out route here. Pretty well run there. Nice fighting after the catch. But that's the part I think you got to concentrate on him a little bit of. That's the part when he's going to have a year on the practice squad to kind of go through. That's probably where he's going to need to clean that up a little bit. I will say just one other final thing, not to be too negative on this, because I do like this kid for the plus thing that he brings, but the hands aren't always there. It's not always that he's going to come down when you give him that opportunity there, and that's always going to be the case in these high pointers, but there was some tape like this one here where and it may not be easy to see, but the defender doesn't get his hands up here. He just kind of tries to kind of block out, and he's got both of his hands on this ball. And it's a hard-ass catch. I mean, he's going to come down and take a beating when he comes down on the ground there, but not able to reel it in. Another go ball down here near the goal line, where again, to me, the quarterback puts it right on his hands, and he's got to make that catch. Now, the defender does a good job with late hands to knock it free, but we've seen him high point this. We've seen him jump up for this in other catches. And so this is, like I say, when he leans on a skill, he's got to lean on this skill, and he's got to be great at that until he can get a little bit better with the route running. Because to me, on some of the route running there's just a little bit of it's a little bit labored when he's trying to change direction, especially when he's trying to move semi-full speed down the field. But this is a guy with a unique high pointing ability, with a unique, very large catch radius. And one of the reasons I'm targeting him as a guy that I think long-term you're looking at here is that the Seahawks receiving core could be one that does have some openings here in the next year. Well, Tyler Lockett is looking like this is probably going to be his last year. We'll have to see on that. Maybe he's got another year in the tank beyond that, but everything's been kind of set up in the way that they've structured this for this to be probably his last year. You don't know what they're going to do with DK long-term, hopefully a contract extension. But having these extra receivers in the developmental cycle and in the kitty, so to speak, in reserve, if you are needing to call upon them for that reason, would be nice to have. And this kid with his big catch radius and ability to go up, it'll be fun to watch him in the preseason, because no doubt Grubb's going to give him a couple opportunities to go out there and do his Rome Odunze act of just jump up there and take it away from a defender out in the preseason and see if he can do that at the pro level like he did it at the college level. But you love the production coming out with Hatton too. 2,400 yards over the past 2 years, 25 touchdowns receiving. That's a hell of a lot of production. Doesn't matter whether it's in the Mountain West or whether it's in the SEC. And it's worth noting, I think that's for sure. Let's talk about the last guy I've got here that I want to speak on. Let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. I was drawn a little bit for a while to look at maybe Ro Torrance as the guy I want to be on this, is the guy on the defense side of the ball that stood out to me. But there's one other guy that really did stand out as a guy to me that, much like with Holani, this guy, I think of these guys I speak about, has as good a chance to not just be on the practice squad for a year, but to be on the active roster this season right now. And I'm talking about Nelson Cesar from Houston. This is a guy that I did, again, have a draftable grade on coming out of college. So a guy that I had a chance to actually look at prior to us picking him up as an undrafted rookie free agent. And he is a guy that has some tools, a little bit like Holani. It's one of the reasons both these are two guys I could see eventually potentially making the roster, is that they have a lot to offer. They're not just simply, this is the one thing that they bring and that's all that they got. No. There's much more here with both of these two guys. And with him, he gives you some true power off the edge, legit power, some explosiveness. He's got some bend. He's not as much of a dipper. He's not as much of, I would say, necessarily first step quickness guy, but he is a bend guy, and he works very well off of contact to get into that bend. He can really flatten that route to the quarterback once he hits the bend of the arc in a way that is a little bit unique from his perspective of things. He also plays the run really well in his ability to set the edge and be powerful in that respect, where you can feel him there and still come back and be a part of the running game. Of course, we'll be showing some of the snaps from him here in just a second. He's played quite a bit here with Houston. Going back to 2019, he accumulated over 28.5 sacks over the course, 18 sacks over the course of his career, and 28.5 tackles for loss. That's pretty good production. And what you really like about it, as I always say with these prospects, the thing I always gravitate towards and I want to see is show me you getting better. If you're incrementally getting better at the college level year by year, that's going to inform me that you're probably, as a pro, also going to be able to get incrementally better, that you're going to put in the hard work to get better, that you're not just resting on your laurels of who you are and hoping that your natural ability is going to get you by, but that you're getting bit by bit by bit by bit. It's a slow game getting yourself to that place of refinement. It doesn't happen overnight. And so you can feel in his production, his TFLs every year go up, his sacks go up, tackles go up, all across the board with him, as of course he did play more and more throughout his time there. But love that when I look at him just off of the surface of it, on top of when you get into the tape with him with some of the skills he does bring. And let's look at some of that tape here and see what he offers. So first and foremost, like I said, you got the power stuff working here, where you can feel with him the tackles are going to struggle with him with the power side of things. Just gets into this guy, two hands in, just a bull rush. They're very close. The guys are pretty much kissing on this play. So let me show you where he is. Let me do that. Oh my, I'm sorry, guys. I've been meaning to highlight this before the play so you guys know what to look at. And I'm sorry about a little bit of fuzziness here, but that's him at the bottom of your screen there. He's just going to get into the right tackle for the opposition. Push him right back into the quarterback and then go get the sack. So power is the first thing that sets up with this guy when we're looking at him. And one of the reasons I think he has a really great chance of making this roster, because what is it that maybe he's going to be able to bring that Darrell Taylor doesn't? The guy that he's going to be, mainly competing with here this upcoming season. Oh, of course, yeah, power is going to be a big part of it. Power is going to be a big part of it. Sorry, same play there. Here the ball comes out real fast. So he doesn't get a chance to really even get close to getting home. He's going to be top of the formation here. They're going to run him a little bit often here on that right tackle side, where he's sort of usually to the strong side of the formation from Houston's perspective, because they liked his run stuffing ability and ability to set the edge at times. So again, not a fancy rep, but you can see that same bull rush I showed before. Two hands, gets in tight with the two hands on the bull rush, doesn't try to necessarily extend you on it. He's just going to hit you with the leverage, and then almost like a Bruce Lee 3-inch punch with my two hands, walk you back that way. Ball's out really fast from the quarterback. It's actually an interception here, I believe. Helping to kind of create that interception there with the pressure. Got a bit of a long arm he can utilize. So this all comes from power again. Really times the snap right here. Look how quick he is off the snap versus the other guys on his line. Look how quick that is. Bam. He's a really good snap timer. He's got quickness. It's not, to me, full first step quickness. It's just he's got good timing of the snap. Gets the hand, get that right arm into that right shoulder of the tackle. Boom. Got it, right? Stretch it out, create space. Okay. That's what you do. It's a long arm. It's not a bull rush now. You just go to the long arm. And you got him separated out. The long arm creates the separation. Now you got the pathway to the quarterback. And as you can see here, a hold absolutely happens. The yellow flag coming in behind. So this would have been a sack. But Tackle's trying to save his quarterback's life. It's understandable. How about the long arm bull rush again? My favorite snap of Nelson Cesar last year. By far. By far, this would be my favorite. Watch what he does to the right tackle. So look at 67 here. Bye. That's just a thing of beauty. That's explosion to power there, folks, is what they call that. Boom. On your back, son. 67, right side of the screen. Boom. Oh, what a beautiful thing here. Watch it again from the television copy here. So you got 6 right here. This time they've got him coming off the left side this time, blindsiding it. He's going to hit him with that long arm. Boom. That's nasty. That's one arm, folks. He ain't dropping him with 2 here. That's a full-grown man that he's taken down with one long arm. But you get those linemen moving. You get those feet moving. You get up under the pad. He has got his arm right under that pad, and then you just drop him. And one more time for the alt angle. I mean, come on. You guys got to see this one more time. Watch him go flying. Whoa! Got him. Great play. Great play. I mentioned the bend. So good quickness. But bend is really what stands out. Bend and then flattening that route to the quarterback. I always say there's 3 main components I look for on edge rushers especially. Quickness, dip, bend. Those are the 3 that you really do want badly. Those are the 3 that, jump out to you. He gives you bend and a little bit of quickness. Not full on first step quickness, just quickness. So here he is, top of your screen, coming off that left edge. Initially gets blocked, but look at how he flattens the route. What do I mean by flatten the route? You're right here. Do you continue to see how he's in a rounding motion here as he comes around the corner? See, it's in a rounding motion, meaning that you've a million times in your life seen a tackle like this come off the edge and get guided out the back of the pocket by the tackle. I call it getting kicked out of the club, where it looks like the tackle's beat, but he's just going to use your momentum against you and flow you out through. But what you see he does, and what's very hard for pass rushers to do, is plant and beeline to that quarterback. He doesn't round it, but plants and gets downhill to the quarterback. See? Doesn't let himself get pushed out the back of the pocket. That's that bend. So bend and then flatten. Bend, flatten. Play it for you full speed here. Bend, flatten on the quarterback. So a lot of guys can get the bend. I can show you Darrell Taylor with bend, but I play like this with Darrell Taylor. He's getting sent through the back of the pocket because he doesn't have the strength to hang in here, and he can't flatten the route as well to get to the quarterback. And so he just is not able to make that happen. Here we go again. We're going to come from the bottom of the screen, number 9. Definitely highlighted here for you guys. Again, that bend. You can feel him just setting the bend up here early, can't you? Watch how early he sets this bend up, where he knows he's going to bend it. Bend, flatten. And then look how quickly he flattens it back to the quarterback. It's like defying human physics almost a little bit, in the way he's able to do that. And you can see every time he gets the tackles to hold him. Look at the tackle doing the same thing all the other 2 guys have done. I'm going to hold on to him and try to, still gets the sack. But bend, flatten. And it's just a 2-step flatten. It's flatten. Look where his hips are here, where he's going. You wouldn't think he would have enough time here to swivel the hips and flatten himself back to the quarterback that fast, but he does. Stands out with him. I think it's something that will translate coming to the NFL. Bottom of your screen again here, number 9. Another play where I want to show you here the bend that he's got. Gives you a little Euro step, and then the bend out of Euro step. Bend, flatten back on the quarterback. So, watch the Euro step. Euro swipe, I should say. This is the Bosa move. And clear back through. Euro step to the swipe. And he can kind of call upon that move. That's something he goes a lot to on his tape, by the way, the Euro step swipe. So it's just something he's got. I bring it out every once in a while when I got the guys set up, when it's convenient for me. But the bend is what gets him there, and the flat and the route to the quarterback. That just stands out with him over and over again. Place that I think he's going to make his money on this team if he's going to make his hay here. If he's going to unseat Darrell Taylor right now, it's going to come from this kind of stuff. And this isn't a play where, look, the play's being run away from him. It's an inside zone run, kind of out and away. His job is to first set the edge here and then go find the ball carrier. But you can see, look, the tackle tries to get a little power on him. He slides right off the power. I keep forgetting to highlight. Sorry, guys. Number 9 right here, bottom of your screen. Slides right off the power. Can't get in there to really make a play because the plays run away from him. But I just want to show a couple of these plays setting the edge because this is, of course, the place where we see in Darrell Taylor that he struggles quite a bit at times in setting that edge. Where that can be the thing that's definitely holding him back a little bit. So bottom of your screen here. Got a 3-point stance down somewhat, so to speak here, right? So it's kind of, you can always tell by the body language here, the defense is expecting a little bit of a run. Takes on the puller, forces the ball carrier to bounce outside, back to the defender, back to his help. So squeeze that hole. He's squeezing the hole there. He's got his defender behind him. He knows he's got his help behind him to his outside left shoulder. So he's got to squeeze this and cause this to bounce out of the initial hole it's trying to go. They want to go there. Running back's got to bounce it out because of his power there in the hole. How about on the goal line? Right there, he's just to the inside of number 20, was that number 21, I think? 21, 23. He's just to the right inside shoulder of that guy. Again, set the edge, just mucks the whole play up at the point of attack. It's coming at his spot, stands the tight end up in his spot, doesn't get back, moved back an inch. Watch this tight end. Boom. Not an inch moved. Clogs the hole right up. This is a play we have never seen Darrell Taylor make in 3 years of playing football with your Seattle Seahawks. I'm sorry, Darrell, it's just, this ain't your game. Here we go again. Bottom of your screen, coming off the right side here of the offense. Set the edge, curl around, find the ball carrier. I say with these things, it's not just them making the play when you see edge defenders doing this kind of play. Keep in mind, this is them doing two things. Your first job is you've got to set the edge, just like he's doing here. Meaning that if that ball carrier comes to his side, his job is to force that ball carrier back inside. If he can do that and make sure he contains the play first and foremost, then coaches will give you the green light to go and then make the play inside, to get off the block and cut it inside. As long as you're not exposing your outside shoulder and exposing an ability for the ball carrier to bounce it out. But sets the edge first, slides off the block, goes finds the ball carrier. Bottom of your screen, coming off the right side. Heavy formation that side. Like I said, they tend to keep him over as a to the right side to the right tackle, did Houston's defense, because of the fact that he set the edge so good, because that tends to be the strong side of the formation, because that tends to be where offenses will tend to run their formations and how they want to attack. So much like we've seen on a couple of these plays, sets the edge first, right? I'm locate the back, make sure he's not bouncing outside, force it inside if he is, get off the block, get in on the tackle. Basically a block in the back at this point, but it's not going to get called at the college level by the tackle there. But helps to corral that running back into the hands of his help defender. So two things at once being kind of done there. It ain't fancy. Just this is something that's been desperately missing from our defense at times off the edges, by the way, in recent years. One of the reasons I want to highlight it so much, and one of the reasons why I think he's got such a pathway to making the team, is because it's been absent when we don't have guys on the field named Uchenna Nwosu and Boye Mafe over the last 2 years. Again, bottom of your screen, coming off the right side. Boom. Doesn't as much try to set the edge here as just I think he's being told to attack the gap here because he shoots so hard inside rather than even trying to set the edge. I think he's just trying to clog the lane here. But not getting moved to the line of scrimmage. He does have help there. That's why, because he has help with 23 here. So it makes me think that they've instructed 23 to make sure he's going to be the edge. He's going to be the edge setter essentially in this defensive call because they're going to ask 9 to shoot the gap. And linebacker comes and helps out too. He's going to be violent in the run game though. He's going to be physical in the run game. You're not going to have to question whether or not he's got a willingness to give it everything he's got on that side of it. Bottom of your screen again. Highlight right here. Setting the edge. Find the ball carrier. He's in the backfield here, you know. He's living in the backfield. That guy's not moving him an inch, and the tackle knows the ball's going away from him, so he doesn't have to push him anywhere. But you when you're watching the tape with Cesar, the thing that you do see over and over again is that he's handling his edge. And another thing that stood out to me in watching the tape with Houston is how often teams tried to run away from Cesar, where they didn't want to test him, where they knew he was going to be a handful there. Bottom of your screen again, taking on the puller. He gets held here. Yeah, see how he gets wrapped around there? Wrapped around. But just attacking in the run game. Attacking the pullers. Sticking his nose in there. What you want to see. This is where Darrell Taylor better bring his A game this year. That's all I'm going to say on that. Better bring his A game. Bottom of your screen again, number 9 there. Wrong side of the formation. Take on the puller. Get off the block. Find the ball carrier. Get off the puller's block. Find the ball carrier. Get how he not only gets off the block, but slingshots his way back to the ball carrier and doing it. Good play. Last one I'll show here with him setting the edge. Bottom of your screen again. Right there. Last one here. That's the edge up. Back in to make the play. So I've already shown about 5 of these, right? Sets the edge, off the block, find the ball carrier. Good play on his part. Direly missing from this defense when you don't have Uchenna and you don't have Boye Mafe on the football, or you don't have Draymond Jones working off the edge. He's got that Euro step I showed you with the double hand swipe. He's got a little bit of a spin move here, so that I saw on tape with him as well. He's got a little bit in his bag here, come from the top of the screen there, highlighted. Watch his little spin move here. It gets a little, at times, telegraphed. It's not super sharp, but he can kind of pull it out at any time, and he gets the sack here with it. Really gets this left tackle in kind of the spin cycle. Another little spin move for you here. He's going to be coming from the bottom of the screen. Right there. You see how he telegraphs it? It was like, dun, dun, dun. See, he's already like slowly spinning it around here. He just runs right into it. But it works at times for him. It does work at times for him, and he can call upon it kind of whenever he wants. The other thing I was interested in with this kid that maybe something that they try to utilize with him as well is maybe a little bit of will linebacker stuff. Kind of odd, maybe to hear, but look at him here. Actually, he's technically in the mic almost, isn't he? I got him set up right here as a Mike linebacker. Comes down. Finds Quinn Ewers for the sack. That's pretty nice for a Mike. That looks pretty Mike linebacker-ish, doesn't it? Look at that. Gets off the running back. Finds Quinn Ewers. Doing that from the mic. So maybe a little bit of an ability here to do more than just play from specifically edge defender kind of role. Same thing here. Here he's more of kind of in a will look here, right? Off ball. Looking menacing. Again, just good little blitzer. Gets home. This is the type of stuff I'm sure Mike McDonald loved watching on tape with him. Oh, he can do that too. He can do this too. You see him, he's The blitz gap is supposed to be, I think, to the A gap off the left shoulder of the center. He ends up on the A gap of the right shoulder of the center where he ends up going because that's where the hole's at. You can see 50, the left guard's here to pick him up. See how the left guard's ready to pick him up in that A gap? Left guard next to the center, and he goes, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go over here because the right guard's helping out the right tackle with my other edge, and I got a path. Smart play. Last cut here. Highlight this again now. So we got him in off ball. I think I got him. No, sorry. My bad. I remember this cut this is. They got him actually way down here. How often do you get to see an edge defender this far off ball? Got him down here in a little trips look for this receiving core. They're going to run a little bit of a bubble screen on this play. He's just going to blow it on up. Yeah, no receivers blocking him on that, huh? Throws him down with a little bit of violence. That's how we finish up here on this. Show him what's up, Nelson. Show him what's up. Get off that block. Punk. My bike. So that is your look at Nelson Caesar. I think he is a guy that can rush the passer a little bit. I think he's got some potential upside as an edge run defender. And one of the reasons that you're moving right now, Draymond Jones out to edge, one of the reasons he's having snaps removed from defensive tackle is, yes, you have Leonard Williams here. Yes, you have Byron Murphy here now. But also because of the fact that you didn't have good enough guys to hold it down over there when you weren't able to go to those first two guys I was telling you about, when Uchenna went down to the torn pectoral, when Boye Mafe was going to need some snaps and some rest at times during the year, and you had to bring on Frank Clark's or Darrell Taylor's, and it wasn't working. And in the run game especially, those guys were getting gashed to their side of the football field. And I don't think that that's something that's going to be the case with this guy. And if Darrell Taylor was a little more able, I think, to cement his ability as a pass rusher to make that more of a prominent part of who he is, meaning, okay, I can't defend the run worth my life, but you can count on me to rush the passer like a demon, and that I can be good in just that kind of fitted role. And that in a lot of ways, he has a lot more even maybe potential of really rushing the passer than a Nelson Caesar does. But I think we would have seen it by this point at this time. And maybe he just happens to have some great offseason as Darrell Taylor, and it's a contract year, and we've seen guys come into their most hungriest at this time of year when these situations are set up this way. But I keep coming back to the fact that this guy's got very close to where you are as a pass rusher, and he can defend the run. I think this gives him a bit of, almost at times to my mind, the way maybe I'm looking at just oddly, a bit of an inside track to getting this job and securing it down. We'll see. We'll see on that side of it and how it goes. But four guys that I think could come in here and make some noise in this training camp. Four guys that have, almost all of these guys have played a lot of college football, have a lot of productivity to their name, weren't just one-year wonders. They've got some physical gifts that they bring to the table, which is something that tends to be missing from undrafted rookie free agents, where this is the reason they went undrafted. Not fast, not big, not long. And maybe Westover kind of checks these boxes in that way, but not the other guys necessarily. So get excited about these guys. As we've seen in the past, you never know when one of them might pop. And if one of them might pop, it just bodes that much better for this team and the overall upside of this team if you can get actual productivity from undrafted rookie free agents on top of the marvelous draft classes our Seahawks have had over the past couple of seasons. Let me know what you think. Did I miss out on the boat? Is there another undrafted rookie free agent you think is going to make more of an impact? Is one of these guys one of your favorite ones that you think is going to go out there and make it happen? Let me know today here in the chat, comments section. I appreciate you guys watching today. If you could for me, please do hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. It helps out this channel, helps me grow. We don't have any real Seahawks news going on right now. I think we just drafted, we got a couple of camp fodder guys that we're signing right now, so no big news going down with that. We do have heavy rumors outside of Seattle with the Brandon Ayuk situation, and that he has formally now requested a trade from the 49ers. I have long said that this is going to have to go, somebody's going to have to go. It's duck, duck, goose, Someone's have to leave the island. Someone's going to have their torch extinguished. And it would appear that it would maybe be him. There are rumors that Brandon Ayuk will be moved to maybe, and take this with a grain of salt, but maybe the Raiders. And the Raiders would flop him for Devontae Adams. The Raiders would probably throw the Niners a third round pick or something like that in addition to it. Niners would have Devontae on sort of a 1-year de facto deal at that point. We'll see if they'll pull that off. Interesting. I actually wouldn't mind it from the Niners' perspective of a creative solution on this one if that's the way they do go, because they're caught in a bit of a rock and a hard place right here. They want this last final go for it year, but at the same point in time, they lose that if they let Brandon Ayuk go for just simply draft capital, for future draft capital. We'll see how it goes, though. Be an interesting situation to check out. Jose Rodriguez now, how you doing? AI, it's good to see you as well. And Radu, thank you again for that donation. I really appreciate it. Hamza has become a member of the channel. Thank you, Hamza, for becoming a member of the channel. Anderson, you as well. I know both of you have before, so thank you for that support. We are going to be doing a call-in show here probably within about the next week for members of the channel. So be on the lookout on your community posts for that, as I will be sure to be releasing out that here shortly as well. Just a reminder to everyone, I will be coming to Seattle. The Hawks Nest is coming to Seattle this late July. That's right. The Thunderdome. No, not the Thunderdome. I will be coming to training camp this year. So the 26th, the 27th, those 2 training camp days that are open to the public, yours truly will be at training camp. And then we are going to be going to, I think I'm going to go to maybe like a brewery in Bellevue or something like that as a meetup spot. I'm not certain of where I want to go meet up after practice on the 26th. But the 26th, we're going to be meeting up in the afternoon, evening time, just hanging out. Probably, I'm thinking maybe a little brewery there. I'd like to maybe do it there. I know that's tough for some of the folks who might be a little bit underage. But if you guys got some ideas on a good spot, maybe to meet up to, I'm all ears on that side of it as well. So we'll be getting through on that side of it soon. I hope to see you guys there, either at training camp or at the meet and greet spot. Daniel Berry, how you doing? It's good to see you. Land Grenade, what's up? Hope the McDonald's was good. AI says 53 days till kickoff, just around the corner. Can't wait. Brandon Torrance was released already. Oh, my bad, man. Well, good thing I didn't have him highlighted here, Brian. Brian says Cesar and Holani may make an impact. Westover goes practice squad, but gets plucked by another team. Maybe. It may be. Kind of part of what I wonder with them and bringing him in is a bit of an understanding with him of, look, coming in here, unless we have an injury, you're not likely to make the roster, but we've got you in a spot where you're going to stay on the practice squad, or you're here for a developmental year, and there will be an opening on the roster a year from now, and we can kind of keep things open for you to really go and take that as long as you develop and show up in the ways that we hope you're going to show up for this team this upcoming year. Sentai Power, Donnie, how you doing, man? Part 1 of the final season of Cobra Kai. I hope it's a good one. Hope they finish it right and good. Brian says orange uniforms is ugly. Yeah, they're not good. The Boise State colors are a little bit tough, especially with it on their on the field turf painted the way it is. Can't do it. You didn't miss none, Ricardo. Not major, man. Be more Seahawks and a party without chilling with Brandon. Let's go. Let's go. Lyle says, do you think Jake Bobo will get playing time this year? Lyle, I do believe that Jake Bobo will find some time playing. I think it's going to be tough at times for him to really crack in and get a lot more playing time than he got last year. Not because he isn't good or that he isn't a guy that does the most with when you give him an opportunity, but because of the fact that the receivers room remains really stacked up and you have so many playmakers still all over the place on this offense. And so unless there's an injury, I just don't think he's got a real pathway to getting out there and really playing very often. He is going to benefit from Grubb's use of 4 wide receiver sets and how much more often I think he'll run those kind of sets than versus Waldron. He'll benefit maybe a little bit from a little bit less of the 12 and 13 personnel with the 2 and the 3 tight ends. And so more receivers on the other side of it. But it will probably take a bit of an injury for him to really find his place on the field. And Bobo's still wide receiver 4, Lyle. Yeah. And I think pretty well locked in. I don't think Hayden Hatton can overtake him here Derek Young is really his main competition there. And Derek's going to be tough too, go for Bobo. But Bobo was just so good last year in what he did, and he burst on the scene so well that I think the team is going to be hard-pressed not to have him as that fourth guy on the roster. Corbin Smith's prediction 12-5, Isaac? On Cigar Thoughts? Let's go. Corbin feeling good about the team. I like that. It had me hyped, but also like, let's not get too overheated here in mid-July. Hey, everyone's getting caught up in the magic of the new team a little bit. I get that. You know? And I've said, man, Isaac, my prediction's not going to land on 12-5, but I've said that the variance for me lands on a spot where I can see it being anywhere from 7 to 12 wins this year. And so this team's got that in them. Steph says this team is going to be special. Let's go, Steph. I like it. Isaac says, motion to rename him Jack Westeros. Motion granted, and I second that motion to be passed. It's forevermore going to be Jack Westeros. He's the dragon, people. He is the dragon. Isaac says, do we have the best under 25 running back room? You tell me a better one, Isaac. I looking at the data, I was going to kind of put together a Charbonnet video here at some point, and I was looking at the data, and only one team over the last 10 years has drafted a running back either in the first or the second round and then come back the next year and draft a running back in the first or second round. And the Bengals did it like 12 years ago. So it's never been done. And most of these running back rooms, I think, across the league, when you look at them, Isaac, are ones that are, you might have a good number one guy, and you might have a pretty decent to good number two guy, but you ain't going to have a third. You ain't going to have a fourth. And so, I think we absolutely do. I think even if we wanted to say the best 1-2 punch in the NFL right now, who's got the better 1-2 punch? I don't know. I think it's us. Tony Wright. Oh, sorry. You're speaking to Young. Sorry about that, Tony. Yeah, Ricardo, I think Westeros will be making the practice squad. War Chief, how you doing, man? Rockman Drums, hello. LFG, hello. LFG says, this is great. Video breakdown, yes. Like number 26. Thank you, LFG. Hope you guys don't mind the long form. I like kind of going down the long road on this, especially when the off season we can kind of slow roll through. LFG says, thanks for showing University of Idaho CFB. Absolutely, man. I was born in Idaho, so I got to show Idaho some love. War Chief, I don't think Hatton makes the team. I think he's very likely to make the practice squad, though. And he does have a kind of a unique skill set that if he can be that good with the ball skills, the contested catch skills, the contact catch skills, there's a chance, there's a pathway for him long-term to develop within that range, I think, within a year, on the practice squad. He's a fun guy from that standpoint. But that stacked receiver chart would probably be too much to make the active roster. John Freeze, LFG. Who can't forget John Freeze? He played pretty good quarterback for Hawks for a little bit when we needed him to kind of fill in. Little Dallas Cowboy Brandon, my favorite channel. Informative, but objective. Start rush over Dak. Let's see if 5-1 gets to 6-1 and more. I'll say a little, man, little Dallas, we were talking about, he was talking to me with you a week ago a little bit about the Dallas situation there. And, I mean, I think you'd agree, if Jerry's at the point, if Stevenson's at the point where they're saying, all right, well, we're not going to pay Dak, and that's the spot you're going with, and you're going into this year going, we're really not putting all of our oars in the water, believing that we're truly going to be a contender this year. We're not going to be bad, but we're really not truly putting all of the oars in the water to be a contender. Well, doesn't it then, logically speaking, within that for you, if you're a Cowboy general manager at that point, to say, well, man, maybe we should be kicking the tires on some tradable assets here that we may have. If we don't want to sign Micah Parsons long-term, is there a major trade out there that we can swing? We don't want to sign Dak. Is there a deal coming into training camp? Is there a deal around the trade deadline that we could make to start to bump up some of these picks for this, let's call it a soft rebuild? If I was a Cowboy fan, I'd be in that point. Much better that than just sort of, to me, going through this upcoming season in sort of a middle zone, not quite good enough to compete, not quite bad enough to be bad, to be in great draft position to really upgrade the team for the next draft. I could be off on that one a little bit, but that'd be my look at it. That'd be my view of it if I was a Cowboy fan with it. But thank you, little Dallas Cowboy. Very kind of you to say. Trout God, I think Mike Mack is going to like Caesar. Tough, strong, and athletic. Enough to rush the passer and drop into the flat coverage or small zone drop. I agree. I think he's going to like that wide skill set that he brings. We know with Mike McDonald's defense, Trout God, that it begins with his defense. Where? Creativity? No. Flipping up coverages? No. Those things are a part, but that's not where it begins. It begins with hard edges and stopping the run. Hard edges, meaning we force everything back inside. You are not going to work out the outside shoulder of our edges. It's all going back in. You're going to make your hay running the ball. It's going to be in the A and the B gap. And so that's where I think you're right. He's going to love that part of his game, the part where you can move him around a bit, where he's comfortable off ball. He's comfortable as a blitzer. I mean, these are just things that are check, check, check. I don't think I could do that with Darrell Taylor. I don't think I could put him as a will and tell him to blitz through the A gap, or tell him to blitz through the A gap, but then have the feel like we saw Nelson did on that one play of being able to slide around the shoulder to where there's going to be a hole in that blitzing. Bobby Wagner is an absolute master of this at this point in his career. I know he gets sent to go to certain places as far as a gap on a blitz, but he can just scrape along that line of scrimmage and find that hole. And that's part of what makes a great blitzer, is the ability to do that. And I agree with you. I think that's going to resonate with Mike in a big way. And it comes down to Darrell Taylor being the one-trick pony that can rush the passer and can do little else, versus a guy like this with a multitude of things that he does offer, on top of being younger, on top of being cheaper. This is why I've prognosticated that I do believe that Darrell Taylor's days as a Hawk are going to be shorter and shorter with this guy, as soon as they get to especially once they get the pads on. LFG, this content's great. I have implicit out of West bias. Good. I love that kind of bias, LFG, and thank you, man. I appreciate you for that. Trout God says Darrell Taylor has never taken on a puller like that. No, I know, never. And it's that willingness part I talk about. It's that part that you think in pros, you always think in the pros, they're paid like a pro. They're giving everything they've got. They're giving you all they got every play. They're putting their body on the line every play. And with Darrell Taylor, it's not that it's completely just he's playing weaker. He's not got that doggedness to him. He's not got that kind of grit to get in there. You can watch it if you watch a guy like Devin Witherspoon, and not to knock Tariq Woolen, but it's like watching the difference between guys like Tariq Woolen trying to get off a block versus Devin Witherspoon. Devin Witherspoon's going to be violent in getting you off the block. He's going to throw you off. He's going to rip you this way and rip you that way. And if you keep him blocked, it's like he's bruised you and battered you to keep him blocked. With a guy like Tariq Woolen, it's going to be like, and Woolen's got to get that part of his game better. He's got to get more fierce with it. You've got to get off that block. You've got to fight to do it. It's a want, a will, an attitude that you bring. And that's that part that, I agree, I think is missing in Taylor's game to a major degree. LFG says 1988 station in Spokane. I followed Wazoo's great 1988 season. Listened to Bob Roberts call Cougs games. So thankful Dennis Erickson is a legend. Plays still used in 2024. Erickson, far too underrated among many greatest offensive play design coaches in history of CFB. I hate when Western coaches are overlooked, e.g. Ult at UNR, Now Tedford, amazing careers. To your point on that, LFG, I was interviewing Chad Brown a couple years ago and talking about Erickson a little bit and just kind of, probing what he was sort of thinking about his time because he was here with Erickson. And he really felt like Erickson did get, of course, the short end of the shiv as far as a head coach of your Seahawks and really truly getting a kind of a fair shake. And he felt, and he did use the word, that he felt like Erickson was a genius offensive mind. That was Chad Brown's reference, not mine, in the way that he talked about him. And certainly, you go back to that Jets game back in that final year with Erickson, man, and the Vinny Testaverde game. And if it had gone differently in that game, and if you had been able to get in the playoffs that year, and if Erickson had been able to use that just enough to get him then a little bit further to solidifying himself here with the new ownership that was in Seattle at the time. Steph says, great picks. These UDFAs look promising. Thank you, Steph. I really do think they're the ones that stood out the most to me. There are a couple of other UDFAs that are interesting. I mean, like I said, I was talking about Greenfield, the left tackle. Novinsky, a guard, an interior guard's kind of interesting. But as I look at those guys, I just don't see as much either a short-term or a long-term pathway for them as guys that'll be players on this team. But these guys, I do think, have that pathway, and that's why I want them to be highlighted. I guess LFG Roe Torrance is no longer with the Hawks. He was for a little while, so they must have released him just recently. Big old corner, though. Kind of makes sense they to release him because he wasn't exactly a fit to McDonald's scheme, as big a corner as he is. McDonald's not necessarily looking for those big 6'4", Richard Sherman length sized cornerbacks. LFG says, will you be credentialed at camp? I haven't thought about it. Maybe I should reach out to the Seahawks. Should I reach out to the Seahawks and see if they'd give me credentials? Certainly they wouldn't give the Nest credentials, would they? Greg Waters says, I love the orange cat. Thank you, man. She's a good girl. She always shows up for all my shows. She always provides the support. Always count on her. Ricardo says, considering rookies just reported, I'm assuming nothing of note has happened yet. Nothing yet. Nope. Just getting things, their weights and measurements, getting the helmets fitted, getting all those little individual things done. Chad says, I see Bobo as our legit deep threat. He's fast enough for Geno to hit him in stride, but he fights for the ball, high points it, sees it in, and just plain catches it. Dude's textbook all the way around. I can see it. He's got that nasty, too, inside-out release, Chad, that sort of, sluggo route that he can run to just pure perfection where he can just, it's almost like the corner can know. It's like he's going to break it out, and they still can't help but take the bait when he's running the slant. They have to take the cheese. You watch it over and over again where they take those steps in. And he was able multiple times, be it in preseason or in the regular season, when he was given the opportunity to take that top off. And very well may be the way that they do utilize him. That's for sure. I'm high on him. Jake Plummer, LFG. Definitely a Pacific Northwest legend. Jerry Kramer going back on that one. That's a deep reference. That is a deep reference. Can they set the edge in the NFL, as they say in the South? Yee-wee! Hoist, I saw something about a basketball team coming to Seattle. Rumors are that maybe by 2027, Sonics will be back. These are the rumors. Chad Brown, Oregon State. Chad Brown, Colorado's former Seahawk. Chad Brown, LFG. He went to UC. Yeah, UC, right? Yeah, UC. That's where he went. We might do a little bit of a quick show here today, folks. We don't have a lot of folks in today. I didn't think we would because we're still in kind of that quiet range of things. But we might run a little quicker today just because we don't have as many people going on. Chad says, I've heard getting press credentials is pretty easy. All you have to do is show some of your published work, and this is YouTube page, so you clearly have. So what you have clearly qualifies. I'll hit him up. I'll see if they will. I think it's a great suggestion on your guys' part. So I'll see if it will. That'd be so much fun to be able to do that. That'd be great. Get behind the velvet rope. I'll tell you guys everything too. I'll tell you everything. Everything. It was fun talking with Chad LFG. He's been very gracious. He came back again. I'm going to do another session with him here at some point. I'm working on getting some tape put together and looking at some of the plays of his career and kind of going over some of those plays and diving into some of the details of that stuff. I love doing that type of stuff, as you guys can tell with my hour and a half film session to kick off the show today. But he was really nice, and he's been very gracious with his time to let me pick his brain on that era of Seahawks football. Snail says, perfect time to wax poetic about Devin Richardson. You're going to make it a thing, Snail. It's going to be made a thing. Misfit says, if you want press credentials, hashtag Hawk Tua. I hear that is the passcode to get in the credentials. What's the password? Hawk Tua. Red or white? Yeah, Chad. The rumors of the Sonic rumors has kind of gotten old, hasn't it? Where we've been hearing for about the last 4 years that it's imminent that they're going. It's like you can almost time the story that's going to run in some sort of local site about how like NBA's got intention to get the Sonics back to Seattle. Like, do they though? Do they? LFG, I will give it a shot right after the show. I'll reach out to the Seahawks and see if the PR team will let me in on that. See if I can snake my way in. That'd be awesome. Great suggestion on your guys' part too. I was so thinking about putting a shirt together with the Hawk Tua stuff, but it's been beaten to death. So I'm like, I was a little late on that one. I was this close to putting some shirts together though. Like Hawk Tua the season 2024 or something. Holy stand grenade. B. What is the airspeed of a velocity of an unladen swallow? 37.5 miles per hour. 50. If they are 1,000 yards up in the air. You got my what was my reference on that? I'm spacing out. I'm getting old. Jim Carrey. Snail says he got a 3-year contract according to Sports Track, so buckle up, B. It's definitely going to be a thing. 2 Cougs on the team at the same time. It's going to get weird, all right? I'm going to let you know that now. It's going to get weird. 2 Cougars. 2 Cougars. Hey, sign me up, Snail. Sign me up. Not only because I love local stories that can make the team, not only because I love local stories that can make the team that are guys that are not given a real easy path to making the squad, making the team, but also because it's in desperate need right now. I mean, we absolutely need this. Positively. You know, getting some help, getting some depth, getting some guy that could be a long-term answer in there would absolutely fit really nicely for us. So I hope he is. I hope he can be that guy. 3-year contract, huh? Well, they must feel pretty good about him on that front of it. And if you're looking at any positional group in football to go in and, hey, give me a pathway to go make this team, you know, like that's where I give Hadden some credit for having the balls to come to the Seahawks, being that this wide receiver core is stacked, and you're going to come to this receiver core and try to make it happen. Like, you got a lot of confidence in yourself. You certainly do, because there ain't that easy pathway to getting there and making the team here on this particular ball club. But with the linebacker, a little bit of a different story, isn't it? It's a little bit more of an open gate there for you to get your way in and find your footing. So hopefully he can, Snail. I'll be very interested to see if he can pull it off. Isaac says, Hawksnest, reach out to EJ Schneider from Bootleg Football about how they get credentialed for the combine. They had total access as they told it. They did indeed. I think some of it is, I'll bring it up to ask him, because we're going to definitely have EJ back on the channel if we can at some point in the future. But I do know, I think that they do get some special stuff, because I do think Coleman and them have some connections to the NFL, where, you know, the NFL has given them kind of a unique peek behind the curtain on that stuff. But man, if I could go out to the combine, if I go out to the Senior Bowl, if I go out to some of these places, like I'd love to go to I think Coleman and them are right now we're at the masterminds, the offensive line masterminds camp, where they get all those guys in there talking. And Robbie Tobeck, former Seahawks, spoke there. Really cool listening to him talk about his career a little bit there and what got him by. Very, very good stuff. But I'll see what he's got to say on that. Maybe he's got a little bit of an in. War Chief says, until they actually make a move, I don't want to hear about the Sonics. It breaks my heart every time I hear and nothing happens. I'm so let down. Me too, man. It's a bummer that we've had to wait this long, that the NBA has decided that Seattle should go without basketball for, 15, 20 years, that should be a thing, that there's not a fan base here that would be worthy enough of instituting another team. And I understand the NBA's not expanded for a great many years at this point, but it does hurt. It does suck. And hopefully sooner than later, this eventually does come down the line. I desperately do hope. Radu Turkan, thank you for another double dono today, Radu. You're very kind, man. You got me on the last show too, so thank you for all that support, brother. What are the chances Bobo becomes our wide receiver 2 in the next 2 years? Could you see that? I think he can do it production-wise. I am very high on Bobo. Yes, I'm impressed by what he did last season, Radu, in a very unique way, because he was not given a high volume of stuff to do. And he wasn't given a high volume of stuff to do because of the stacked depth chart, not because he wasn't good enough. And to see him be so overwhelmingly good with that small subset of time that he got to really show out. And we're talking about any chance that he got. You give him his chance in preseason, he's going to go make it happen. I think in preseason, once every 6 snaps, not once every six pass routes he ran, but once every 6 snaps in the preseason, he had a catch. The ball was coming to him and he was making a catch. And so that his production to me was legitimate in a unique way last year. And it wasn't to the level necessarily Doug got to in his first year, but it's a little bit like that where you go, ooh, okay, there is something to this kid. There's something a little bit more here than just a back end of the roster kind of cat. The way that it would have to come down for him to become there's 2 different ways that he could become the number 2 wide receiver on the Seahawks in the next 2 years, Radu. The first way is Jackson Smith-Njigba really is more slot, and that he needs to be a slot at 75 to 85% of the time. That is where he's going to operate. And therefore, he's not as much going to ever really be the outside guy, or that's not really where you want him to fit into, to be the outside guy. And that could hold to be true in the way that they play it out. I've kind of long suspected, Radu, here, that I don't think that Jackson Smith is really an outside guy, that he's going to end up being a guy it'll somehow flip long term, where you'll have him out there 70% of the time at outside and he'll be inside in the slot only 20% of the time. I think he will be a long-term guy there. So that gives some way to where, is he a true blue number 2 at that point, Radu? Where, Jackson Smith's still getting a lot of the snaps, but he's in there technically in that 2 role. Yeah, kind of. And I could see it work that way, and that having just more to do with just what Jackson is, where he's fit to. Everything's becoming very specified in the modern NFL, and your positioning and your role and what you're being asked to do. His blocking as well, let's remember that, Radu, would help really give him, I think, a little bit of a nudge ahead of Jackson Smith. Even if Jackson can play some of that outside, if you feel like when it comes to Jackson playing on the outside, and he's maybe just a hair less effective to the outside, and his effectiveness on the outside is very comparable to what Bobo gives you, but then Bobo is leaps and bounds better as a run blocker out of the outside, yeah, that probably ends up getting Bobo some snaps in the long term a couple of years from now once a Lockett retires. The other way this could happen, of course, too, Radu, is if there is a DK trade a year from now. If the Hawks don't want to do the $34 million a year for DK or whatever he'll cost, then they move him because they feel like they have the trust in Bobo to be able to slide into that number 2 role at that point. And he then slides into that, and that's even if in the case that we learn that Jackson Smith can become a guy that plays on the outside. So that would be the second way that could happen. But I do think long-term with him here that there's that pathway for him to become that number 2 wide receiver. And as much as anything, yes, the receiving skills do it. His hands do it. The productivity he gave you last year informs me that he can do it. But the blocking, I think he was the 3rd highest rated blocking wide receiver in the sport of football last year. And that can't be undersold either if you've got that kind of guy who can do that. I mean, one of the reasons the Niners running game is so deadly, Radu, is the fact that they got their receivers, both of them, I think on the top, 2 of the top 7 wide receivers in run blocking in the sport of football are sorry, I had a brain fart here. Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings. Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings. And we know with a guy like Kittle, he's a good run blocker. So yeah, it's an important trait to have. And it could be that separating trait, Radu, between him and somebody else that allows him to sort of take that number 2 role by the horns. I think he could, man. I do think he could. Thank you, though, for your donation and support today. I really appreciate you for that, Radu. Very kind of you. Dale says, B, first thing I'm doing in CFB 25 is deleting the Huskies, laughing out loud. I'm playing as the Huskies right now. I'm having fun with it, too. It's a fun game. It's very addictive. I haven't been gaming much in the last couple of years, and this one's got me a little bit back to the addictive thing going, and I'm like, I got to balance. King says, I'm waiting for the Seahawks Bootleg football episode. I think it drops tonight or tomorrow. Hell yeah, man. I'll be checking it out for sure. King Bomber, they're doing a great job on that series. Very fun, very informative. With every team, you're learning something you didn't know going in. Ranson's fun facts. Charbonnet's real first name is Zachariah. Zachariah Charbonnet. Well, that's very, kind of got a poetic roll to it a little bit there, doesn't it? Snail says former Cougar Robbie Toback. Yeah, former Cougar Robbie Toback. Great story. He was talking about going up against Leon Lett and how Leon Lett was so freakish and so long and just so explosive. And he was worried all week about having to block Leon Lett and how he was going to do it. And he remembered the coach in the meeting and they're talking and somebody brought up to the coach, how they were going to deal with Leon Lett. And he said, Toback will just fight him. If he can't beat him, he'll just fight him all game. And Toback said it was a real light bulb moment for him in the career at that time because he realized the physical ability, technically being good, on your spot, being quicker than this guy, being faster. But if you're just willing to be a guy that will fight it out with a guy, that will go to war with a guy, snap in and snap out, if you will have that kind of mentality that you can apply, that can get you around some of that physical ability, which is a little bit what Toback was trying to, I think, say in that respect of it. And stands out. It's a guy that wasn't the most talented of guys. That does definitely ring true with him, that's what it took for him. But he said, yeah, it was that moment where that coach said that where I went, oh yeah, I can do that. I can just fight out with anybody. I can just stand toe to toe with anybody on that. I can just dirty it up. It ain't going to technically look pretty, but I'll get the job done. Jimmy says the Rams have 2 slot receivers. They do. Yeah. They made it work last year, though. I wasn't sure once Kupp was going to come back if they were going to find a way with both Puka and Kupp on the field at the same time to make it go, because those guys are really 2 pure slot guys, but they made it happen. They still found productivity with those 2 guys on the field at the same time. Excuse me. Big Boy Jess, what's with the Cardinals taking all of the Hawks rejects at the Hawks Nest? I don't know. There is a pretty rich history, Big Boy Jess, of teams within their own divisions. That there's sort of an incestuous thing that goes on where teams will pluck from within each other. That you've been playing that guy twice a year. You kind of like that guy. Oh, he's on the market now. Well, I'm going to go get him. We've seen him a lot here. We've seen what he can do in his handiwork here a lot. Now, the odd part about this with the Cardinals is, as you say with this, Jess, the rejects. You ain't taking the Seahawks best players who maybe just are at the end of their road and you're squeezing the last couple drops that they've got of productivity left in whatever they have. You're grabbing guys that have been kind of failures and haven't worked and have been misses. And I don't know why. I'm not really sure why on that side of it. I usually have a good reason why teams do most things, but on that one, I'm like, I don't know. Chad says, I think we really have no idea how Grubb is going to play, guys, and love that. But we have a bunch of guys who can play all over the field, both pre and post snap. And we talked about yesterday with motion. Motion is going to be absolutely characterized as a big part of this offense here with Grubb. You know it is. And I really love to see it, Chad. I think it's an important part of the offense. Is, like you say, we were talking last week on this, where this is a part of the game that's grown over the last 10 years. It's gone from something that's utilized very infrequently to something utilized at a high frequency. And you can't be one of those teams left standing at the bus station and the bus is already 50 miles down the street, down the freeway. And that's a little bit of how we've been acting with it the last couple of years and some of the stagnation there that we've seen. They got a little bit better on some of the pre-snap motion last year. I was looking at some of the data on this, Chad, though it's a little bit of a misnomer because of the fact that a lot of the pre-snap motion that they tried to utilize last year was that crappy orbit motion stuff with Zach Charbonnet, where Charbonnet starts out in shotgun next to Geno, and then he goes like he's going to fake going in motion, and then he just comes back to Geno because they're trying to get an indicator off the defense, whether it's man or zone, off of his orbit motion. And the defense never reacted to it, by the way. They never told us what they were doing with it. But that technically would count as pre-snap motion and go to the numbers. But overall, you watched the All-22 last year, snap in and snap out, you're not moving. You're just standing still. Chad says, check it out. M's just picked a switch pitcher. I heard that. Yeah, a guy that can throw both sides. That's pretty interesting. Ricardo Hawksnest, what do you think about the Seahawks O-line being ranked last in the league by various analysts? Well, I definitely don't think that this is an offensive line that should be looked at as ranked last. I think that that's definitely a big leap. It is a very young line that is, for the most part, still untested. You don't know where the health is going to be out of Abraham Lucas. You have a fifth rounder you're starting at the center position. You have in Laken Tomlinson, a guy the past 2 years who have not performed well, at least by like a PFF. If teams were trying to look at where he's been at, and you're doing you're trying to put together the stack on that. You go, okay, well, that's not good. You have in right guard at this point, a third round pick in Anthony Bradford. So it's completely untested there. I think that it's unfair to say we're at the back end of the league in our rank. It's not unfair to say that it's still an offensive line that should be near the back of the bunch because it hasn't proven itself yet. But the asterisk on this is that while it may be at the back of the bunch, the talent level is so much better than being at the back of the bunch. You just need the health to hold and the talent to take its steps forward to reaching a better state. So it's sort of like, and I guess let me say the way I would put this, Ricardo, is that if you took the offensive lines that were ranked 25th onwards to 32, none of them have the top side, the upside of our offensive line within that. But I get where they're coming from to a degree. It is a little, I don't get where they're coming from to the 32. That's extreme. Because Ricardo, I mean, there's some trash offensive lines. Like, we're worse than Washington. I can't see that. We're worse than the Raiders. Jesus, I mean, even the Giants' offensive line, we're better than that. Yeah, I can't go that far with it. I can see them going back to the bunch, Ricardo, but not. That's over the top. 32's over the top. Ricardo says, I know next to nothing about the Major League Draft, but the last thing the team needs is more pitchers. And it's just trusting the value of their board, Ricardo. You know what I mean? It's just the most valuable guy you got on your board. That's the one you jump on. You know, that's the way that works. That's all they're doing there. But yeah, we need some hitters. Snail says, Jake Bobo is better than Puka. Oof. Boy, you would trigger some Rams fans if they heard that one. Hey, Puka got more opportunities than Bobo, Snail, you know? You can only do with what opportunities you have in front of you. And Puka came there and Cooper Kupp missed most of the first half of the season. And you had no real other receiving help out there outside of that. Whereas Bobo was sitting there like, I'm ready, but he's behind a line of guys that are like, yeah, we're all waiting for our touches, Jake. Okay? We're all waiting to get our catches. Okay? Kenneth's up there, then Zach, then DK. Tyler's going to get 2. Jackson will get 1. Back to DK. Then we come back to you. Okay? Wait your turn, Rook. Wait your turn. Kevin says, I'm still pissed about Puka's BS PI call on Witherspoon. As am I. One of those calls from last year that was brutal, that wasn't a game-changing moment of the game, where if it doesn't go called, I think your offense gets the ball back and you're in great position at that point. I think even you still might have the lead at that spot when that occurs and goes down. So it was a BS call, Kevin. And a brutal one at that, where you needed that game in that moment. You needed some calls to start to go in your favor in that moment, if anything, not for it to drift the other way. We weren't good enough to overcome bad officiating calls last season. But that was one of the ones that stands out for me last season too, Kevin, of one of the worst calls that you look at, being in how it cost you, where it cost you in the game, and just how bad of a call it truly was. Ricardo says people forget that the Rams were one missed field goal from missing the playoffs. Indeed, they were. This close. Radu says, is it me or did Witherspoon drop above average picks last year where he could have had them? Ravens game, for example. He had, I think he had probably about at least 3, but maybe even as much as 4 in his hands last year. So, yeah, he had a couple that were right there where he could have grabbed them. And we'll see how good of his hands are long-term with him on that. I don't think he has bad hands. And then remember Radu, too, he had I think it was the Panther game as well, where he got the interception in that one in the end zone. But Boye Mafe, slid off the head of the quarterback and had a roughing the passer call. So the PI came back on that one, too. So he had that one wiped off the board as well. But, I do think he had a few of those drops last year, Radu. You're right on that. Hand grenades says people also forget without refs' help away from losing the Super Bowl. Also forget without. Oh, the Rams. That's right. That's right. Defensive holding on the key play of the game. Haven't called defensive holding all game. We'll call it on the Rams' final drive to benefit them in their favor. Nothing dirty there. Ricardo says Raiders are pretty good, apparently, and the Giants upgraded. Oh, okay. I admit, with the Raiders right now, that always feels like one of the teams, Ricardo. I'm pretty good about keeping up on most teams and what they're doing and how they're doing it, and just generalized how their roster's put together. Raiders are kind of one of those teams that I tend to forget to. I think it's probably because I just don't take them seriously. They just feel like a Mickey Mouse organization. Like, what's the point of looking at that team's players? But I probably should better educate myself on how they do. Even more Seahawks. If Spoon is going to be a weapon, what percentage would you put him at on being on the outside, slot, and near the line of scrimmage? I would say it's pretty ubiquitous when you talk about slot or near the line of scrimmage. I think that kind of means the same thing. You know what I mean? Where it's basically the same sort of role he's serving in. I think that anytime that you have a team that's in nickel, anytime that a team is in 3 wide receiver sets, Spoon will be your slot guy. That will be where he is aligned out of. There'll be some stuff where they'll mix in some stuff where they do some creative things with him, so it's not just him in the same spot every time. But by and large, you will see him out of the slot. And because teams tend to play 3 wide receivers now, somewhere in the neighborhood of 65, 70% even, that's where you'll probably see his percentage of how many snaps he's in that slot point. Feed me. When teams go to a base defense, that's when you're going to have Spoon on the outside. So if we get 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, Spoon's probably going to be your outside corner. If you get I formation looks from the Niners, Spoon's probably going to be your outside corner. So that's really only going to be probably 15, 20% of the time, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood of things. The point will be to keep him at around the near the line of scrimmage and having him in the slot so that he can operate in the way that you want that guy to operate, where we're able to blitz him. We're able to use him like a linebacker as a run defender. I can have him man up on a guy in coverage. I can use him with a variety of different intentions in mind, and he'll be comfortable in those roles and he'll execute those roles at a really high level. So that's the spot you're going to put him into. And that's why I've said Feed Me More Seahawks. It really is the Hamilton role. That's what they did with Hamilton to the Ravens. You would have some snaps of Hamilton and safety. And maybe that's the bit of the difference, I think, between Witherspoon and Hamilton, is that Witherspoon will play even more into that slot stringently than even Hamilton did, though Hamilton plays the majority of his snaps down in the slot. But that would be my guess on the splits. That's an approximation, of course. Steve-O says, Kat never misses the show. She never does, man. This is my ride or die girl right here. My ride or die kitty. She's always here for every show. Good girl. Once again, like we were afraid of upsetting a whole 5 LA fans beat. That's true. I sometimes forget about that. That there's only about 3.5 of them in the whole town. And everybody else is lying. Hey, Brandon. Hey, 12. Sorry, I'm late to the chat. Been doing more painting in my garage. Living the good life. Get it done, Addicted. Love to hear it, man. Hope you're working up some great murals, some tapestry. Levi, the men. I heard this somewhere and don't know if you've talked about it, but do you think Grubb might use Bobo similar to Westover's role at UW? It's possible. Levy, I've been asked this a little bit about, potentially the possibility of moving, theoretically Jake Bobo to the tight end position. Because what you're essentially asking or looking at doing when moving to Bobo into Westover's role is you'll turn him into an H-back tight end. He's the off-ball tight end at that point. While that is a role that I think that Bobo could pull off because of his blocking abilities. And because also Levy, though he did a lot of really good work on the outside last year, coming out of college, he is very comfortable working inside. He's got a great rip at the stem of his route where you can't feel which way he's changing direction. He can work really well off of a defender's leverage. He can sit down and find that hole in the zone very fluidly. So he doesn't have any problem with the congestion that you get down there and all of those bodies and being able to operate and work around that. I don't know if his blocking is going to be as good if you're asking him to get down there and take on defensive ends or go and take on linebackers versus when he's taking on cornerbacks and when he's taking on safeties as a blocker on the outside. I wonder if you might more minimize a bit of his skill set to have him move into that role in that way. But for a small set of snaps here and there where you just sort of mix it in to give the defense some different looks, Levy, certainly he would be able to do it from that range. I just couldn't see him doing it as far as like he's transitioning to a new position kind of move. It would be more of a, sprinkling it in a little bit of a pinch. Jeffrey A. Thistle has been celebrating 26. I'm talking over 2 years as a Hawks Nest member. I thank you for that, as a Ring of Honor member at that. Jeffrey, appreciate you, brother. Says, what would we need to give up to get my quarterback crush, Joe Burrow? Everyone, I'd be okay with that. Well, Joe is a hell of a quarterback, Jeffrey. As we say, there's 5, 6, 7 really truly special quarterbacks in this sport. And you're making that list and you're putting your Mahomes on there and you're putting your Josh Allens on there. Well, I think, and I feel this very strongly, you've got to include your Joe Burrows on there as well. He deserves his spot on that list. So rightful for you to have a crush on this guy and how good I think he is. I was doing data mine, I think it was about a month ago, Jeffrey, and a little bit for the Geno Smith video. And I was looking at those quarterbacks over the last 5 years who have had a PFF ranking of 27th with their offensive line and pass protection or worse over the last 5 years. And I went through and then looked at all of those quarterbacks that 5-year period in that bottom 5 and how they did that year, how they performed. Were they productive? Were they able to take their teams to a winning state? And what stood out to me, Jeffrey, is that the answer was no. No. No one was able to rise above that impediment with the exception of one guy. No one was able to go out there and put a over 4,000 yard season up and 30 touchdowns up except one guy. And that was Joe Burrow. He had the one season on there that I found in the 5 years with 27th ranked pass protection over the last 5 years. The one guy who was able to put a marvelous season together despite going up against that onslaught of pressure that he was having to deal with that Cincinnati offensive line. So he's a really great player. Now, eventually here to get around to the context of your question, there's no chance you're going to be able to get Joe Burrow now or in the intermediate. First and foremost on that. He just signed his contract extension last year. So it's going to be at least 2 years until the Bengals are in a position to eat any kind of dead money on that contract to move him if they were willing to move him. And remember with this Bengals team, Jeffrey, that's not a cash-rich organization. That's one that has to, rummage through all of the couch cushions to get every last quarter they've got to be able to pay everybody that they can. So they'd have to eat a lot of dead money. They would never be willing to do that. Let's say the dead money wasn't in play. Let's say that we're 2 years down the line and it's become lessened at that point. And he's like 28 years old at that point, I guess, 29 years old. Yeah, you're looking at a lot. You're looking at 3 first-round picks at that age and probably 2 second-round picks to get it done. You'd have to give up a lot because they're also going to be trading you to. Remember, with the picks you're giving them are going to be likely late-round picks, so they're going to expect more because the fact they are late rounders. Always hand grenade. It's funny how LA fans aren't even in LA. Yeah, it's pretty funny to me. I think it's hilarious that the NFL thought that they looked at they've got all these years of football in LA where they went, okay, Rams went to LA, didn't work, went to St. Louis. Oakland Raiders went to LA, didn't work, now they're in Vegas. Well, went back to Oakland, now they're in Vegas. And they looked at that situation, they're like, you know what we need to do? And everybody went, yeah, what do we need to do? We need to put 2 more organizations back in LA. It didn't work last time while it worked this time. Because, we'll build a $5 billion stadium. That'll make it work. That'll bring them in. Do you think this St. Louis will ever get an NFL team again? That's much like with LA. It's like St. Louis has got a bit of a tougher road to hoe here even than an LA team getting 2 LA teams because St. Louis, you had the St. Louis Cardinals. They became the Arizona Cardinals. You had the Los Angeles Rams go to St. Louis Rams come back to Los Angeles. So you haven't been able to sustain a franchise twice over before this. And you do go, well, St. Louis isn't exactly stands out as a, epicenter sports franchise-wise necessarily. I mean, St. Louis Cardinals, but there's not a St. Louis basketball team. I think they're going to have a hard time doing it, Ricardo. I think the NFL's got its eyes to expand into other places, especially with some of the international market. And I think St. Louis would have to wait quite a bit of time to get back into it. Little Drip says, can the 49ers franchise Brandon Ayuk? Technically, the answer would be yes. But this is one of those moments, Little Drip, where technically is nowhere near reality. Brandon Ayuk is playing on the last year of his final rookie deal right now. He wants the contract right now. So in practical order, if Brandon Ayuk doesn't get paid right now, he's going to be what they call a hold in, Little Drip. Not a hold out, but a hold in. I'm in the building, but my hammy's a little tight. And then tomorrow, you know what? My quad's going to be a little bit tight. And then you know what? The next day after that, my shoulder's going to be a little bit sore. And so That's the new way, is the players holding in. So he forces the Niners' hand, right? It gets dirty, and then it's like, well, it's day 7 of Brandon Ayuk's hold-in, and still no progress between the Niners and Brandon Ayuk. And then you eventually get to where the player's able to force the hand and get a trade to be happening. So the Niners, to get to the franchise tag on this little drip, would have to get through this final year of his rookie deal and get to the point where they could even use the franchise tag, get him okay to the point that he'll sign the franchise tag, because remember, they got to sign the franchise tag on top of it. And none of that stuff is in the realm of being possible here. The Niners are going to have their hands full just getting him okay with playing under this year's contract, much less asking him to wait another year. The other part which would make this impossible is that, let's say they were able to pull that feed off, that they were able to get him to play out this final year of the contract, they get into next off season, they're to next off season, and they go, okay, we're franchising you now, Brandon. We're not going to pay you a contract yet even now. We're just going to franchise you. Well, they would need the money to be able to franchise him. And if you're going to franchise him, he's probably going to cost $28 million on their contract, $28 million of their salary cap, all due right then. And right now, the Niners are sitting on negative $39 million of dead money as it is. They don't have the space to pull that off. So it's all the way around, little drip. There's just no way they can pull that one off. He's going to get traded. Him or Debo or somebody's getting moved. Radu says, B, who's the worst UDFA we brought on this year, in your opinion? Ooh, good question. Let's look at my list here again. I didn't like Carlton Johnson's tape. I was very unimpressed by Carlton Johnson out of Fresno State. He doesn't have anything that he really leans on in his game that, like, he takes away from the offense as a corner. And he gave up just a godsmack amount of yards this year in coverage, Radu. He was a catch waiting to happen. I feel like he's one of those guys that stays on top and leaves everything open underneath. And I want to say that he had just an insane amount of yards. Let me double check his PFF on this to make sure I'm not speaking out of school. But I want to say that he just had an insane amount of yards. Oh, maybe it wasn't that. But yeah, no, he did. So, Radu, he didn't play at all through the early part of his career. And then he finally really got, like, his real first true run last year. Like, he had 42 snaps in 2018, 268 snaps in 2019, 177 snaps in 2022, and then he went all the way up to 804 snaps last year with Fresno State. He gave up 548 yards receiving last year in coverage. He gave up 38 receptions. Now, he was targeted 69 times. He had 4 interceptions on the other side of it. So there were some things that he did that wasn't completely bad. I just didn't see how he was going to be able to stop anybody at the pro level. Like, maybe he's got some ball skills. Maybe he can jump a route from time to time. But I didn't see how he was going to stop anybody at the pro level, snap in and snap out, with just his pure coverage skills. And not a guy that I had as an undrafted rookie free agent grade when I looked at his tape prior to the draft. He's one of those last corners, Radu, you look at as you're leading up to the draft. Levy, the man says, thank you. Love the channel, and thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. Haha, it's rare. Hey, my pleasure, man. Hopefully I'm kind of known here for butchering names, so I'm glad I got yours right. I'll say that because I'm a bit known for that. Not proudly speaking, so either. I wish I was better with the name pronunciation. King Bomber, top 5 quarterbacks right now: Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, and Stroud for me. It's a good list. Damn good list. It's a damn good list. Man, I don't think I can do better than you did on that. I think you got it, man. I think you got it. And there's a small chance I could push Stroud out for Stafford right now. Because it is just 1 year, and Stafford played so good last year, King, even at his age. But I wouldn't fight you over it. You could sign me up for those 5. That'd be my only one where maybe I'd put a little bit of a difference there as a sliding in Stafford there. But that's a great list. Agree with all the rest of them. Boys, Dan Grenade says Bobo has got a particular set of skills that make him a nightmare for opposing teams. If you give him his touchdowns, that'll be the end of it. If you don't, he will find you. He will score you. And he will score on you. I will find you. And I will score on you. I can't do a Liam Neeson. I can't do Liam Neeson's. I'm not good with Liam Neeson's. I will find you. I got to whisper if I do Liam Neeson. I will find you. I'll kill you. Snail says, meh. I don't think Herbert's all that. I wouldn't put Stafford ahead of him. All right. We're kind of in the same zone with flipping one out for Staff. I could be on board with that too. A little bit. I think there's an argument to be made that he's outplayed. Maybe that's the one I'd want to switch instead. Let's call it a top 6, Snail, and then we just include all those guys and Stafford. Chad says Geno better than Joe Burrow. Ooh, let's go, Chad. Let's go. Chad says Jake Browning better than Joe Burrow. I think you just made Jeffrey's brain slip out of his skull on that one. I think so. Ricardo says, wouldn't using the franchise tag on a player with a contract set a bad precedent? Well, you don't set the franchise tag on a contract year. He's got to get through the contract. So he's through the 5th year of this deal, and then I'm speaking to next off season when you would franchise him. If a guy's under contract, he can't be franchised. So I think that's what you meant on that question. I wasn't trying to make that happen. Yeah, you can't nor would they want to, because they got him. The 5th year of his contract is cheaper than the franchise tag would be. Space says, God, I hate the Niners. Jeffrey, so many running backs for some reason. We're solid at running back already. Oh yeah, we're great. And even that 4th spot with Holani is going to be a battle between those guys coming down to it. Ricardo Tua's brother is the worst. Well, he did get cut very quickly, didn't he, Ricardo? I mean, that's an indication, you know. Didn't even make it to training camp. Little Drip says, thank you for the explanation, Brandon. Hey, what are your thoughts on that if he requests a trade? It's a wrap, right? What are your thoughts on that if he requests? Well, he did request today officially, Little Drip. We've got that he's been waiting off. He's been sort of putting his toes in the water here for about 3 months. He's finally jumped in today and he said, I want to be traded. He's requested a trade at this point from the Niners. So the heat is on. It is on the streets. The heat is on. And that does mean to me, Little Drip, that this is going to come down as a trade. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that Brandon Ayuk's going to get moved here, Little Drip. That looks like, if you're laying down bets in Vegas, that'd be the bet you'd want to lay down. That looks like where it's kind of subtly going to. But I think it's a very fluid situation with the Niners, and I think that they're trying to find a creative solution to this that's going to see them not have to offload really good young talent that they really like a lot, which is, I think, the case with Brandon Ayuk. So does it become a potential Kittle trade? And the Kittle trade, I think it becomes harder to happen too, because he's had to be rehabbing throughout the offseason. So he may not even be in a place where he could pass a physical. So it really may come down to Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. Do they move over Deebo Samuel so that they then can sign a Brandon Ayuk? That does remain still, the specter of that does still remain a possibility within this. But again, the betting odds are to them acquiescing to his trade request and moving him. And right now, Little Drip, the big rumor right now today was the Niners moved Brandon Ayuk to the Raiders for Devontae Adams and probably like a 3rd round pick. Boys Hand Grenade says Herbert's Mr. Chocolate. Dale says Herbert's not top 5. I've always liked Herbert. Radu says B. What if Brandon Ayuk refused to play? What would the penalty look like? Something like Chris Jones? It's the hold in that they do now, Radu. That's the thing I was joking about, where you come into the facility, right? You walk in, you get your pissed off case because you want to be paid, right? You're looking at Kyle. What's up, Kyle? Hi, Brandon. Sup? Hi, Brandon. This is my money. We don't have enough, okay? We don't have enough. Well, that's tough. You know, my hamstring just started to bark on me a little bit. Starting to bite a little bit back there right now. Oh, boy, that hurts back. Just kind of a little tight back there, coach. I don't know. I don't think I'll be able to practice today. I don't know. I don't think I'll be able to practice for a great deal of time. Just doing one of those moves, and that's the way that works. Remember Jamal Adams did that with us a couple years ago when he was waiting for his contract with us, Radu, is he did the hold in, is what they call it. Not the hold out, but it's the hold in, where they're in the building, they fake an injury, and the team can't do anything about it. I mean, if a guy says he's in pain and your doctors are like, well, he's not in pain, he's fine, we don't see anything on the test, but the player's saying he's in pain, there's not really any recourse for a team to say, we don't think he's injured, he's faking it. We've never heard of a team really trying to come out and do that with a player before. With Chris Jones, he was in a position at that point, Radu, where he had made so much money in the NFL at that point that he didn't want to even mess around with the hold in. He was just going to, because he probably knew, Radu, I'll do the hold in, and the team will be like, well, great, we're just resting you up. That's how we'll think about it. You'll come back here eventually with us. We'll just have you chill. You know, he probably knew with them that was going to be a bit of the case with them if he tried to hold in. So he wanted to put more heat on them in that situation by holding out and not being in the building, by going, look, you're going to make this happen. He went a little more extreme with his steps on that. But the majority of players now, Radu, the move has been the hold in. That's the move now, and that's what Brandon Ayuk will do. And that's why the whole process here with the Niners believing or thinking that somehow they can just kind of hold on to their cards in this situation and let it play out through this year. That we got the one more year of our Super Bowl run. We'll get to the other end of that, and then, okay, if Brandon wants to walk at that point, then so be it. We'll let him go, or we'll franchise him then, and then we'll move him for draft capital at that point. But we've got our one more year of Super Bowl window that we're still able to try to take advantage of. I don't think it's going to play out that way. I don't think that they can force that hand in that way. Erickson says Mafe Mayhem next year. Let's go, Erickson. I love it. Jordan says I can do Liam real well. He's a tough one, man. That's a tough accent. So you gotta get a little deep. You gotta get a bit of that. It's got that little brogue. Tough. Ricardo is a little too whispery, more bass in his voice. Yeah, I can't do the bass in his voice. I have to do it as a whisper. I'd love to do Liam though. He'd be a fun one. I will find you. I will find you. That is, when I try to do Liam Neeson, it becomes Sean Connery. I will find you. Orchie says top 5 quarterbacks right now: Geno Smith, and Geno Smith. I'm in season mode. I block out all the others. Let's go Hawks. Let's go Hawks. Jordan, thank you for the $2 donation. I really appreciate you for that, Jordan. Says I really want the 49ers to trade Ayuk. Well, I am with you on that. Whenever I see our biggest nemesis, our biggest rival, offloading great young talent that is a big point of the center of what helps them and their machinery work and run, that makes me very happy. When I think about the possibility of Ricky Parasol for Brandon Ayuk, that makes me very happy. In fact, in Ricky Parasol's case, they just announced that he's on a non-football injury list by the Niners yesterday, by the way. Shout out to Randall for sending me that note. So we'll see what they do with that. But they take a hit. And I'm sure of the belief that where I'm at with this, Jordan, where the Niners have been a team set up the last 2 years that's as strong as you'll find in football. And as a deep collective, not a deep, but as strong a roster with the starters as you'll find. I don't want to say necessarily deep, but strong starters, yes. But they've also been a team that we've also looked at to where when they lose some of those strong starters, boom, boom, that you can feel them dip a little bit in those rare moments when that's happened. Last year, right about the time that they were playing Cleveland in there, where Trent Williams had a thing come up and you had Christian McCaffrey with an oblique, and for a couple of weeks there, they had to kind of find their way. And I think that if they lose a couple of those guys, it's a lot different team. You lose a Brandon Ayuk and then a George Kittle goes down to injury, that offense looks way different. Way different. And if they want to choose that route, if they want to move him, it'll make me very happy because I think that they're doing nothing at that point but probably closing their Super Bowl window for this upcoming season if they make that move. Now, the exception would be a Devontae Adams move here, Jordan, where you're bringing Devontae in, and that's actually a great kind of compromise solution for the Niners. You're stuck in a situation where you want to go for it this year, but if you move Brandon Ayuk because he's telling you to do it, you're not going to be able to go for it because you're going to be getting draft capital back for a guy who's not going to help you win now, but will be a pick for the future. Whereas Devontae Adams coming in right now gives you the guy to still maximize for this upcoming season. In fact, might even give you a better player than Ayuk, at least as a route runner and pass catcher in the intermediate time. So maybe not a bad compromise situation for the Niners if they go this other route with it on that, but something's going to have to give and give very soon with training camp a week out. This is not going to last for another, I don't think, 2 weeks. You will see some kind of resolution here. Thank you, Jordan. Ricardo says, okay, I was confused by your franchise discussion. I didn't realize you meant next year. Oh, yes. Yeah. After he gets through this year's deal. Now, they got to extend him this year, Ricardo. He's not going to play through on that final year of the deal. He already feels like, because from his perspective, Ricardo, remember with this, he could have gotten paid after year 3. He had earned the contract already after year 3, right? Then he comes back last year and plays through year 4. Now he's heading into year 5. So it gets to that spot where you're with the player where you've gone far past what's acceptable from asking them to wait and be patient. It's now is their time is how they feel on that. And rightfully so. You've waited an extra time to actually pay him. You're certainly not going to get to wait an extra 2 years to pay him. Chad says, well, it took me this long, but I counted all the positions the M's picked in the 2024 draft, and check this out. They picked 3 outfielders, 10th, 17th, 20th, 2 third basemen, 1 catcher, 1 two-way, and wait for it, 13 pitchers. Maybe they're looking out to finally go spend some money on some of these guys, Chad. Maybe that's how they're going to get their hitters, is they'll buy them. I'll be right back. 1 second, folks. Oh. Spencer Smith says Jake Browning is him for real. Snail says Herbert will probably play better with Harbaugh, though. I'm believing that he will as well, and I do chalk up a little bit of his lack of necessarily ascending even higher to some of where he's been at with the coaching staff, some of how their offense has been, played. I don't think that they've always utilized him to the utmost there. But I do think he's going to take off under Harbaugh. That's for sure. Spencer says, Brandon, in a hypothetical scenario where Sam Howell has to start 6+ games consecutively due to a Geno injury, is there a caliber of play he could show that would convince you to pull Brady Bledsoe? I feel like a lot of what drove the Bledsoe thing for him to remain as the starter, even once Brady to remain the starter, even once Bledsoe was able to come back at that time. Because, of course, this is Spencer. At that point, Brady wasn't playing like Brady of 10 years later. You know, he wasn't out there just whipping the ball all over the field and, you know, making magic happen at every turn and just carrying an offense on his shoulders. It was very much like young Russell. It was game manager Tom Brady. But it was game manager Tom Brady who was winning football games. And if Sam Howell comes out to play, he's not going to be in an offensive system that's going to reduce him down on his attempts and minimize him. It's a spread offense. He's going to have to throw. He's going to have to prove himself. But yeah, I mean, if he went in and started 6+ games, I think it would come down to Spencer, him coming out and winning. You know, him just going out there and much like what Tom did with the Bledsoe thing of, I'm just winning every game. I'm going out there and winning every game I start. And it becomes even less than about what I'm doing statistically and more of just that I'm a winner. I know how to win. You don't want to take me out. You got the team rolling. The chemistry is right. We've got a blueprint for how we win football games and how I can get it done. He will be asked to do much more than Brady was asked to do 20 years ago when he took over. But I think that's what it would really come down to, is him just, you know, kicking butt. And probably it'd have to be on the other side of that, Spencer, maybe that with much like with Bledsoe, you weren't exactly winning under the prior. You know, let's say Geno goes down and you're 2-4. And so then here comes the Hal out there for that 6-game win. He's 5-1 and the team looks better. The offense looks better, or just the chemistry looks right. And those things could factor into pushing that because let's face it, Spencer, with this, you have a decision to make with Geno a year from now. And if you're pushed into and certainly John in the way he looks at it of, if he can have a quarterback there that he's only paying $1 million to as his starter, who can give him the level of performance we're talking about here in Hal, then the pull and the drive is going to be very strong in him to then pivot in that direction, especially considering Geno's age and where he's at is in his career. So it would probably take something like that. Warchi says, with Brandon Ayuk gone, being a top 5 blocking receiver, that helps their running game go down the tubes also. It does. Of course, run blocking is something that they do, man. I mean, Juwan Jennings is a good run blocker. Ricky Pearsall was supposed to be a really good run blocker coming out of Florida. So this is something that he's going to require, be it Kyle Shanahan, of his receivers. But yeah, you certainly, when you lose a guy like Ayuk, who might be the best run blocking wide receiver in the sport, that's no small thing that it's not a speed bump you're just going to go right over the top of and keep on going, right? Chad says that was the big joke on the Niners last year. Debo was out for that 4 games and they lost all those games. That one player caused that crash. It shows how specialized they are under Shanny. And it's not sustainable to build a team like that when injuries are so much a part of the game. 100% agree, 100% see it the same way. I think that they've stacked this strong team, but it's got kind of like toothpicks at the base a little bit. And the toothpicks have held. They've held strong the past couple of years. But it's so easy to see how that can topple back over with just one little Jenga block taken out here and one little Jenga block taken out there, collapse. You know, you really can see how that could happen with them. And I think that they've been structured in that way. They need all of their parts in order rolling to go right and to be to where they're able to be really, truly productive. And if they lose a couple, Chad, Ayuk goes, Kittle down, that offense is not going to be as explosive. It's not going to be as productive. And I know that's a no dud to a degree, but I think we would see a substantial change in the level of productivity of that offense if that was to go down like that. You'd get to start to see Brock Purdy's limitations rise to the surface a little bit more. Radu says, one thing I'm glad is over is all the Carol Hawk Tua have been relatively quiet for now. Laughing out loud. The Carol Hawk Tua the Hawk Tua Man, that's a mouthful, Radu. That's a tough one to get out. That's what Hawk Tua said. Oh. Yeah, they've been pretty quiet. I have said, though, Radu, they are laying in wait. They're just beneath the lily pads right now, like the alligator with his eyes looking out underneath the water, looking all creepy. And they're sitting there just laying in wait. They're laying in wait for that week 1 contest where we surprisingly fall to Denver in a close game. And they will be all over our chat at that time, Radu, going, "Are you happy now? Are you satisfied? See what you did? See what you did?" They'll be there, Radu. They're just waiting for the right time to strike, Right now, not right now, it's not this time. Just give us a little bit. We're just waiting. They're bravehearting it, man. They're holding there with their spears, but the spears are going to come out. You better believe that. Snail says Anthony Lynn was his first head coach, being Herbert. Yes. You had Anthony Lynn, and he had Staley. So much of the offense there with Herbert over the last few years has been them throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage, oddly. Like not taking advantage of his big arm, not trying to push the ball up the football field at times. Very strange. Spencer says, "Calm down, Chad. I'm not advocating for Geno better than Hal. Just interested in the answer to that hypothetical." No, I get it, Spencer. It's a good hypothetical, man. Because there's more to it than just this guy better than that guy. It's also about the future of the position, the cost of the position, the plan for the position. All of that factors into that a little bit as well. Radu says, "B, if Hal is starting against the Niners and wins, automatic starter for the year," laughing out loud. Well, if he can slay that dragon, Radu, I wouldn't be mad at that. I would get it. I'd nod my head and go, I understand. I do understand. I want to thank the sponsor of the show today will be Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy sponsors throughout this last year. And you use my code today, NEST, or click the top of the description link section below. They'll match you up to 100% of your first deposit, up to $100. $100 from me to you through the Underdog Fantasy app. So sponsor the show, help the show out, put an extra $100 in your pocket, get in on some of these contests. Already got the pick'ems coming in here for this season. You can go out there and get your selections on guys for yards over and under. Take advantage of that now. I've got a few all put down for you guys so you can check it out. But thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for sponsoring the show today. Please do show them the love if you get an opportunity. There are limitations that do apply in the state of Washington. But if you are in a casino in the state of Washington or outside the state, you can use the app in full. All right. Well, we are going to get the last couple of questions on in today, and we'll probably put a little bit of button up. I know we're still at that quiet time of year here, so not a lot of folks in. We're just kind of feeling our way to training camp, and I totally get that. A couple other notes I want to put out there today. We got Hawks Nest Clips channel. If you're not aware, I've got a Hawks Nest Clips channel where I'm putting clips of all of these live stream shows and cutting them up for you guys to make them a little bit easier, more digestible over on the Hawks Nest Clips channel. It's a separate channel. Please do get subbed up over to that. As well, I am over on my Twitch channel quite a bit right now. I'm playing a little bit of me going over there actually tonight. So if you guys want to continue this conversation this evening, I will be over in probably about a half hour, 45 minutes over on my Twitch channel, doing a little bit of NCAA, taking the Washington Huskies to the national title tonight. So if you want to watch the national title finally hosted by the Washington Huskies for the first time in a God knows how long, come over there and check it out on my Twitch channel. You can get that down in the description link below, a link to that Twitch page. As I will be doing a lot more streaming over there as well, doing some stuff on that, keeping active over on that side of it. So a lot of extra content coming your guys' way. I will be back this Sunday. I'm coming back into Seattle next week. We got the 26th, the 27th. I'll be in there. We're going to be also as well. We've got a meet and greet that I'll be doing when I'm in town. I'll let you guys know of that. I promised I was going to do that on this stream, but I'll be letting you guys know on the next stream. And I'll also put it on the community post and get a full community post message board a couple times to the subscribers out there of the meet and greet spot that we're going to be at. I think we're going to probably just do a brewery somewhere around in like Bellevue area. Try to kind of find a midpoint-ish spot as I can. But I will have more details for you guys on that on the next show, I promise. Warchi says, looking it up last year, they had Brandon Ayuk ranked the 5th best blocking receiver in the league. Number 1 was Fukanuka from the Rams, and number 2, Jake Bobo Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And yes, they Pukanuka, how about his blocking ability he brings to the table on that? And definitely a nice thing to have. Very, very nice thing to have. Pukanuka. Hoist hand grenade, Sam Howell, Seattle 6-time Super Bowl and future Hall of Famer. Let's go. Could you imagine? That'd be so crazy. I would definitely be sure we're in an alt universe at that point. Stale says, why is everybody else able to play CFB 25 already? I bought the expanded version because I didn't want to wait 3 days. I've been really hyped up for this game, Snail, so I was like, I'll spend the extra $30 so I can grind for 3 extra days. I'm one of those people that did that. I'm not proud about it, but we're in a freaking death knell area as far as gaming right now. Like we're in a wasteland. I'm a starving, dehydrated man who's looking for some gaming sustenance. And this is like the little drip, where the guy's like trying to squeeze out the last little drop when he's dying of thirst. William says, you won't be coming to Port Angeles, eh? Might not be able to make it quite out to Port Angeles. That might be a little bit far for me. Might be just a little bit. Yeah, the Ultimate Edition is the one I did. I hate doing the Ultimate Editions and stuff, but man, 3 extra days to play it. I wanted to get in because I knew too, once the game launched, we got with training camp coming, I wanted to get in on that. It's good though. It's a really fun game. They did a great job on it. I'm really enjoying the hell out of it. Little Dallas Cowboy, I'm on tonight. My hips don't lie and I'm starting to feel it's right. Don't you see, baby, this is perfection? Let's go. I can't do her. She does that like yodel move, Little Dallas. Radu, man, you are so kind. Thank you for the triple dono drop today, brother. I salute you, and you're awesome as always on that front of things. So really want to let you know I appreciate you for all that support to the channel. He says, money to finish. Well, thank you for that, man. Very, very kind of you, Radu. Hopefully I get a chance to see you next week up in the Pacific Northwest when I get up that way. I really am looking forward to having a chance to finally put some names to faces and just see some people. First time been able to get back up to Seattle here in a little bit. So I'm really, really looking forward to this trip. And boy, it's going to be fun to watch training camp and take it all in. Snails is laughing loud. Okay, definitely wasn't paid for early access. I get that, Snail. I had to do it though. I'd be sitting here just chomping at the bit for days right now if I wasn't. Hoist, you should get Among Us speed. Now 10 and 10 if us can yell at each other for voting for the wrong person out. Maybe I'll try that game out. We are looking for some more games here. And Hand Grenade, I will be back on with some COD here this week at some point too. So if you're looking to get in and get on that, I'm totally down. Totally down. Well, thank you, Radu, Jordan. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for the members of the channel. Anderson, Hamza for joining up and becoming members of the channel. Hand Grenade. Jeffrey Thistle, thank you for being longtime members of the channel as you've been. Snail, you as well. I really do appreciate all of you guys for that. Link, Spencer says link in bio for the clips. You know what? I think I've been bad about getting a link up for the... I think I've been actually pretty bad. One sec. Let me find it here. I'll post it in the chat actually for you because I haven't been good about getting it on, getting into my description link. I need to do better about that. Keep forgetting to include that. But I will put a link here to the Hawks Nest Clips channel. This is just a channel that I want to run so I can, and I'll be doing a lot of this during the season. This is just a channel that's going to have clips from the live stream shows. Be doing some other clips too that I'll be uploading to the channel, but just some shorter form content, that type of stuff. Just off with the live stream show link down there in the chat. So thank you for subbing up to that over there on that side of it. We'll be going really strong with that this year. I'm really going to be pumping out some of the shorter content on that side of it. So thank you for that request, Spencer. Appreciate you for that, man. I will be back here in about 4 days on Sunday. We're going to be looking at that time, some of the storylines. I think I'm going to do the storylines. We're looking at camp battles or storylines. I'm doing one of the two here this Sunday. So Be back with a little bit of some training camp prep for you guys this upcoming Sunday. Hope you guys are ready for that, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Be back very soon. Until that time, I hope I shouldn't have to get you hyped. I hope you should start to be feeling that building excitement. You know, those butterflies, that feeling of, wow, maybe something awesome might happen this year. Hey, we might actually be pretty good this year. Hey, we might be able to surprise some people this year. Hopefully that's starting to kind of bubble up to your surface. But if not, then let me remind you right now, do not you ever forget. Keep it at the forefront of your mind. We're not waiting a year. We're not sitting around going through rebuilds. We don't take our time in Seattle. This is the West. We do things fast. It's about right now. And you know what's happening right now? Your Seahawks are about ready to become a contender. So keep the faith, my fellow 12s. Have faith, my fellow 12s. And dream large this upcoming season because your Seahawks might just do some special things. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching, for keeping the chat as always respectful, funny, kind as you guys always do on that. Thank you for all of your support as you guys are generous as always on that side of it. And I will be back soon. But until that time, do not ever forget. Don't you do it. Even you in the back. I see you back there looking off. Lock in. We're almost to training camp. We're almost to our Hawks heading back to Contender State. And that should get you damn excited. It does me. Back soon. But until that time, do not ever, by God, forget. Go Hawks.